This is my husband Tom over here, and I'd like to thank Mike in the back, who opens up Lowe's every month for us. So we meet here the first Sunday of the month. If you would like to get on our email, come see us afterwards, and we could get you on the email list so that you'll get information from us for that. So we are going to start with the national anthem, and then we will open in prayer and get started. So Tom is going to get us going with that. The flag's up here.
Apologies in advance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And we're going to have Dana open us up in prayer. So if you'll all bow your heads with us.
Father God, we come to you in the name of Jesus, and we just thank you for this country that you've given us. We thank you for the freedoms that we have. We don't take that lightly. We just ask, God, that you would continue to open the eyes of the hearts of the people, soften their hearts and open their eyes, God, that they would see you and see the truth of what's going on around us. And we ask, God, that you would not only open our eyes to things tonight, but also show us what we can each do individually that would help to restore our republic. And God, just show us each what you would just have us each do individually. We just dedicate this time to you, and we ask that you have your will in this place. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much. So before we get started, then just make sure you've got your calendar marked for May. Would that be the 5th, I think? I think May 4th is, Tom and I will be going to the state convention in Springfield and maybe spending the night, not coming back until Sunday morning. So at a minimum, we'll be showing a movie, but you know, who knows what'll come to me before then. So I kind of like the idea of flying by the seat of our pants and not having everything too planned out. This came up and was a hot topic, so we were able to pull this off just a couple weeks ago. So stay tuned for that. Again, if you're not getting emails, let us know at the end and we'll get you signed up. All right. You guys are in store for a real treat. How many of you have heard Shield Maidens of Missouri and listened to their blog? Raise your hand. But you guys can see who's out there listening to you already? Yeah? Well, you will after tonight. So, Stacy Shore and Lisa Pannett referred themselves as Shield Maidens of Missouri and act as grassroots activist leaders here in Missouri. They share a weekly podcast reviewing current legislation, where it is rooted, who testifies for and against it, which lobbyists are tied via Missouri ethics reports to politicians, and why Republicans hand over power to a liberal leadership that is sponsored by big lobby interests. Stacy Shore, raise your hand. Yeah, get Stacy up here. She started Missouri Moms Against Common Core and has been a part of keeping her community at Lake of the Ozarks a leader in Missouri and pushing back the federal overreach and heavy hand of state government. Stacy is a foremost leader in Missouri in understanding public education policy and how education is stealing the minds and hearts of our children. Lisa Pannett. was the individual who brought the heartbeat bill to Missouri and fought to pass that legislation that ultimately led to the trigger law that made abortion illegal in Missouri. Lisa currently works for Armor Vine, the only consulting group that shows up to the Capitol every day in session to testify on behalf of freedom and liberty. So, without further ado, the Shield Maidens of Missouri are before you. Stacy Shore, Lisa Pannett.
Thank you guys so much for coming out on a Sunday afternoon to hear us. My story started when I had 3 little kids. And it was public education. We're here to talk about that today because it's so important for so many reasons. We're going to go through a lot of things pretty fast, and so we will take questions at the end. But for me, it started with the math. And so I know it sounds basic and you hear everybody talk about it, and I was just a mom. I was just trying to keep my head above water. I was just living life. My husband was a football coach. He just retired. He's so happy. But he was a 28-year public school teacher. And Camdenton is where I'm from, Lake of the Ozarks. So football's a really big deal there for anybody that knows. But I started speaking up because the math was like not about what was right or wrong. It was about the accepted process. And so as a Christian, God just pricked my spirit and he said, pay attention. And sometimes you just hate when God does that because it's like, oh no, because I'm a fighter by nature when it comes to my kids. And so when I had all these talking heads trying to convince me that it's okay, there's a new, better way to do math, I was like, 2 + 2 = 4. And it was about the absolute truth, right? The absolute truth. And if they can come in and tell my children at 2nd, 1st, 3rd grade that 2 + 2 isn't 4, then they're going to come in and try to undermine the parents in the home and tell them that our faith is not right. So many different things that God just said, pay attention. And so 12 years later, what we're watching, boys are girls and girls are boys. We have devolved so far from the math. But so I got involved, I started asking questions. I would not let talking heads tell me that this is the new, better way, because I'm an intelligent, educated businesswoman, and I'm not going to I was never willing to buy into that. So basically I just said, when I saw a senator treat people badly, I asked Bev Allen, if you know Bev Allen with Concerned Women Farmers, I said, what's his district? Where's he from? And she said, well, that at the time was David Pierce, who was the head of the education committee, and he was so condescending. And I said, I'm going into his district and I'm going to give a PowerPoint. And that's how we started Missouri Moms Against Common Core. The truth was all out there, but you just had to know where to look. So when you started showing people what the truth looked like, it changed everything. And people started understanding and doing their own research, and that's what we're going to show you today. So I've been in this for 12 years. I have raised a fighter. She's currently Bill Eigel's campaign manager, and I'm very proud of that. Many of you will meet her, and she's been drugged to more planning and zoning and school board meetings than you can count. I never thought she would go into politics, but the thing I love about her, and I'm going to give a plug for Bill Eigel right now, my daughter is a true believer. She had better job offers that made a lot more money. Yeah. But you know what? She believes in the country, and I'll start crying because you guys, just the singing the national anthem, we believe in our country. Yeah. And we're going to lose it if we don't fight. Yeah. And so that's why we're here today. We're going to go through so much information really quickly. I'm going to let my good friend Lisa, so we decided to start a podcast. And it was hilarious because God called us both to it at the same time. Because we're super busy, like I have my business and just trying to have 3 kids launching into adulthood, and that's way worse than toddlers. Way worse. And so anyway, we just decided we're going to do this thing. And we didn't, and if you've listened to our podcast, we are not technical. Like so many, my son will call and go, Mom, Mom, that background noise, you need to twist the blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I am just barely getting by here. So I am sorry if it's not perfect. I've usually got my hair in a bun and I'm in a robe trying to figure it out at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you could just see us in real life, like stumbling through it. So please forgive us. I hope the message is what you take away. But I couldn't be more honored to do it. I wanted to tell you just a little bit about Lisa and let her tell you. But there's a new consulting or firm called Armor Vine. Armor Vine is the first of its kind because it's for the people. So I watch all these hearings that she testifies in, and she goes and she sits down and she's super proper. And they're like, what's your organization? And she goes, Armor Vine. And they're like, well, who are you lobbying for? And she goes, the people. And they're like, but what for? She's like, for freedom and liberty. And it's just, they're all like way thrown off because nobody's ever done that before. Nobody lobbies for freedom and liberty at the Capitol. I hate to break it to you. So while we're all working to pay our taxes, my BFF is marching in there every day, and she couldn't pay me to do what she does. No amount of money. But she does it with grace. But I want to let her give her own intro, and then we'll get right into this. So thank you guys so much for coming to hear us. And I hope you take something away from it, but we're going to go through a lot of things fast. And then we will take as many questions as you have when we're done. But again, we're just so grateful that you're here.
So I hate talking about myself. So this is going to be very quick. I think a lot was said, and I'll just talk about how God brought me into this. So I was sitting in a house of prayer. I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know who my representative was or my senator. I was very ignorant. But I told the Lord I would do anything, and you have to watch. When you tell the Lord you'll do anything, because you have a picture in your mind of what that looks like. I was someone that used to do things over in East St. Louis with the youth. And the Lord was just very clear, and He had given me a vision of the scales of justice. And He showed me that it was like the cross, and I had never seen that before. And He had asked me to stretch out my arms, and He said, can you hold it? And I tried, and I said, it's just so heavy. It wasn't that I couldn't do it, it was just so heavy. And He shared with me at that time, that's because the scales of justice are too big a burden without the cross. And I'll never forget that, because times it is so heavy in here, and it's remembering without Him, we can't shoulder this. This is His to shoulder. So this is where He's called me. That's why I'm doing it, and I just follow along wherever He leads, and you never know where that is. It's every day. It's exciting. So that's what I have to say about myself.
She called me, and I'll just go over this real quick because we don't have time today, but she called me. She's like, for the first time, I felt like I might get beat up in a hearing. I'm like, well, what happened? And she's like, well, I just got in this hearing, and I didn't even think it was a big deal. It was about doulas. And, okay, right? Doulas. Like, those are birth coaches, right? Like, right? So it was just like reimbursement for birth coaches. So that's like not a big deal. But she's like, I just went up for informational purposes and just said, look, as long as we're not, it was social justice doulas kept coming up and testifying. Social justice doulas. So, and they're kind of like irate. And so then she gets up and she goes to testify, and they got all they turned the sound down on the hearing, because you can watch the videos of the hearings, but you could tell she was like looking, and you could hear them still kind of muted. Well, come to find out, I had to go watch it then because I was like super curious. The doulas now, they assist in assisted suicide. So they've changed our definition. They also help kids that want to get surgery, transition surgery for transgenders. They accommodate them across state lines because it's illegal in Missouri. And they help people that need abortion services find those, usually across state lines. And so when they talk about doulas, well, that's a perfect example to segue into where we're going, school choice. We believe in school choice. If anybody embodies what real school choice looks like, it's us. And so many of the people that are fighting what they're talking about today So today is not so much about one bill. We're going to show you a lot of deception. We're going to show you a lot about it, and it's ugly, but you need to know. And I hope this is being recorded so it can be spread across the state, because we are going to show what this looks like, and we're going to talk about it in honest terms. My favorite quote is this from St. Augustine. The truth is like a lion. Set it free. You don't have to defend it, it'll defend itself. And that's what we're going to do today. Yeah. So we're going to start with the video. We didn't make it, but it's really perfect, a perfect start to what school choice is all about. So we're going to, I don't know if the lights, can you guys see the screen okay in the back? Do you need us to cut the lights, or are you okay? Good. You're good? Okay. All right.
The globalist plan to seize control of homeschool explained in 2 minutes. Step 1, undermine homeschool freedom through school choice disguised as financial aid. School choice is actually a globalist strategy to seize control over all education. With the introduction of tax credits, vouchers, and ESAs, education savings accounts, the globalists aim to ensnare every form of education within a vice of state control and regulation. Step 2, eliminate educational freedom by enforcing government regulations and learning assessments. In partnership between the UN, UNESCO, and the World Economic Forum, the push towards a globalist curriculum by 2030 is a stealth attack on parental rights. The curriculum will increasingly be steeped in woke ideologies, CRT, DEI, and exclude faith-based options. Step 3, enforce totalitarian surveillance and data collection. The introduction of digital IDs and digital wallet platforms are designed to streamline school choice programs and are a veiled initiative on the path to total surveillance. These technologies are almost certainly a gateway for Orwellian monitoring. Step 4, undermine parental rights and authority. This insidious agenda aims to control every aspect of education, directly threatening parents' rights to choose how and what their children learn, including homeschooling. This is a war on educational freedom. Missouri is at the forefront of this fight, facing a direct threat by school choice, Bill SB 727. This bill, pushed by powerful lobbyists and rhinos, will likely pass this week if we do nothing. To combat this, we need everyone to share this video. We need Missourians to act immediately by visiting SaveHomeschool.com to find and contact their Missouri House representatives. Your voice is crucial in this pivotal moment. Missouri is one of the few remaining states making a last stand in preserving educational freedom. Join us in this fight to protect our rights before it's too late.
So we're going to speak more into this video and get into the details of it, but we're going to start with where some of the problems lie. So as we've just gone through the caucus process, I don't know if any of you were participating in the caucus process? Yes? Okay. So you see how important it is to understand the rules, don't you, after the caucus? It's the same with both our House and our Senate right now, that we understand the rules that we're in, and basically the rules of the House right now have created a dictatorship. We have one dictator, you maybe could say two if you wanted to say both the Speaker of the House and the floor leader, maybe two, but that's all. And there's 163 representatives. Each one is supposed to be a voice to you. That's why we have them, so that they can be your voice. Unfortunately, what's happening is those one or two people, they're usurping your voice. And bills are not getting to the floor because of those people that are in power, just like what you saw at the caucuses, right? Like they're able to undermine and usurp your voice. So I went back, again, this was a God journey, and I went back to see where did this start to take place, that we had a problem in the state of Missouri. And what I saw is it wasn't just the state of Missouri, it was all of the states. So all of the states unified looked pretty much the same over the years with their rules in the House, and they've changed year after year. Some of them look a little different, but overall they've changed. So in 1869, there was a speaker if there should be one. What does that tell you? If there should be one. So this person we've given total control in the state of Missouri, it said in 1869 if they would even have one. That's how irrelevant the speaker was. Right now, they even rotate on the dais, you know, the platform. They rotate over that. So it's not even the speaker that's there on the platform or presiding over these sessions. They already rotate. So this isn't like a foreign concept. We had a doorkeeper then that actually lit the fires. They kept the fires lit, and that's going to be important because I have many people say, why don't we just go back to the 1869 rules? And I'm saying, well, there's a couple gaps that we need to close, and there's some things that are just obsolete. And that's one of them, right? Like we don't have a doorkeeper that keeps fires lit anymore. The other thing is, let's see, they never talked about bills in 1869 coming out of the committee. So right now, everything is the talk of what makes it out of committee, what the vote was in committee, if something was killed in committee, you know, how this is going. I would say, and this is reading a little bit into it from what you can tell because they were vague, but with the other states as well, I think this is a good assessment, that it was more like a court system, and the committees were set with who they deemed as experts. It said appointed, it never said by the speaker. So I believe it was actually appointed by the body, that they would have committees of people that they believed were experts in that field, and then they would give a majority opinion on a bill, and they would give a dissenting opinion, and then it would come before the body, so they were more educated, right, to know about an issue. What it did not say is that anything ever had to pass through the committee or was killed in committee or any of those things. What it did say, and we do not do right now, is it said, is this constitutional? That was the first thing. Is this even constitutional what we're doing? The second thing is, do we already have a bill that already addresses this issue? And the third thing is, do we need this? Is this something that we need? So those were the three things that they looked at to address before they even got into the bill. And they did not decide whether it passed or it died in a committee. So these are big, big changes, and right now, like I said, we have a dictator that even members of the same party now, he doesn't call on them. So you could be standing for 2 hours and you want to say something, and if he knows you're a staunch conservative, he's not going to call on you. That's wrong. Your voice is being stolen when that happens.
Let me say this too. Right now with with 727, just so you know, this bill is being whipped super hard by leadership and the lobbyists. The school choice bill, the government school choice bill. And they're telling every single Republican House member there will be no changes. You can't stand up and add an amendment. You have to accept it as is. And we're going to go more into it. But to this point, even if you have Republicans that are there to represent you and they see there's a dire need for changes, because that bill has devolved to be 85% liberal trash that the Democrats have put in it, but leadership and the lobbyists are saying it's going through as is. There will be not one change. That is what we're up against, guys. That's why we're here today. That is no kind of republic. That is a dictatorship. So I'm sorry, I had to hear. See if that works.
Okay, I want to give you a real example about how your voice is being stolen. When they want, the majority party wants, when I say the majority party, I really mean the rhinos of the majority party, okay? When they want something, it is like the dickens to kill. I mean like the dickens to kill, and I'm going to give you the perfect example. We had what was called COVID liability bill, and this bill was, it was removing all liability so that they could do the horrendous things that were being done, and I don't even want to talk about the things that were done in nursing homes, in hospitals, et cetera, et cetera.
Military.
Yeah, all the horrible things that were done. It gave them this ability to not have any liability to what they were doing to us, to keep us away from our family members, all of it.
And they should have been protecting us.
Yeah.
They should have been protecting us. They didn't.
So we had the votes in committee to kill that. And they didn't know it. We kept it secret. It was a secret plan. And we had the votes to kill it. Then Representative Chris DeFinelli, who is now, he's a representative, but he's running for Senate in St. Charles. He was the chairman of that committee. And when he saw that we had him and that they were all voting no, he changed his yes vote on that bill in committee as the chair to a no. The reason why he did that is you're able to then bring it back up to reconsider once you're a no, and he knew all he had to do was change his vote and then go whip them into submission. If you want this, then you're gonna have to vote this. If you want that, if you don't want us pouring money into your district to go against you, you better step in line. That kind of thing. So they did. So they stepped in line and they made sure that they got it across the line. So that's what they did. We, the people, defeated them in that committee, and it wasn't enough. They brought it back. So right now, we have another perfect example of this taking place. We have a bill right now. It's Senate Bill 1351, and what it's doing is it's removing our ability to sunshine or be able to see who is exporting our water on farmland, okay? Who's exporting it? The reason why, we'll get into that more, but they're wanting to export our water. And they don't want us to be able to see, because then we'll hold them accountable on who's really...
So they're making it a crime if you went in and sunshine request who got a permit, because right now it's not legal to export the water out of our state. Technically they are. However, there's another bill behind it, right, that they're trying to ram through, but they need this bill to be able to cover up who it is that's exporting. So it would be a crime to reveal who has a permit for that. That's what this bill does. So go ahead.
And so on the floor, it didn't pass. And I don't know if it was a gun thing. It didn't pass last week. It didn't pass the Senate. And the Cindy O'Loughlin, the floor leader, she was really mad, and she said, "Who can change their vote? Who can change it?" and she didn't get enough. She didn't get enough to do that.
It was a tie.
Yeah, and she didn't get enough, and so now what we're hearing is that they're going to get someone to bring this bill back up to reconsider. We have all these good bills that we can't get across the line, and every time things don't go their way,
They cheat.
That's what they do. They keep on and keep on until they get their way. And I'm going to tell you, your Senator Ben Brown, he voted the right way on this bill. Okay? Yeah. He voted no. I mean, so you should thank him for voting no. You should thank your senator here for going against ranked choice voting. You should thank him. He has been standing strong. He's been doing a great job. And you should also say, when this comes up to reconsider, we don't want you to have any part of this.
Which will be tomorrow,
Please don't.
potentially. Like,
Please
they're
don't.
going to bring it back up.
Yeah.
So you need to reach out to him, because all of our senators who voted no are getting massively hammered and they have to bring it up. If you vote no, one of the people that voted no has to bring it back up so they can have another vote. So you really need to reach out to Senator Brown and say,
Specifically, thank you for
1351, voting no on 1351.
and it's super important that you guys inundate his office with calls and emails.
Thank you for that vote, and we want him to stay strong so that they don't get picked off.
Can you please bring that up again, won't be a different number?
No, it's going to be 1351.
So, okay, we need to go into this. I got a lot of slides and we're going to go through these fast. The voting machines, what Lisa's talking about, what happened 3 years ago, for the first time ever, they wheeled in, well, they brought in voting machines to vote for your leadership in the Missouri House of Representatives. Never had happened before. Hand count, so you could recount if you needed. Now it's a blind vote done on machines, no way to recount. Dean Plocker was never supposed to have won. And Lisa can talk about that just a little bit. But when Dean Plocker won, there was another rep that everyone knew was supposed to be the winner. So it was a huge shock. Very first year, the machines got brought in. We don't need machines to vote for the leadership. It's 65?
163.
Yeah, it's easy to count by hand, guys. This is what's happening in your Missouri House of Representatives. That was a big deal. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. And okay, so this is what you need to know about this is that the speaker now is technically, this gets back to the rules and all that, but the speaker now, they say, is chosen way before that first day of session when they're in. And this is bogus, okay? They are deceiving even their own members at this point. So the deception is coming in and saying, okay, we have to make sure they stay in line, right? Like good little soldiers, and this speaker is going to be gone, and so then we've got to get them under the control of the incoming speaker.
So what's happening, you have an election in November, about a third of the House potentially will be gone. They're going to say, oh yeah guys, don't even worry about it, we already voted in leadership, and it's John Patterson, so we already chose for everybody, so you guys don't get to vote. That's a lie. There still will be a vote, and there's the ability to say, oh no, I'm represented to elect the people who brought me here. So they bring them in under the deception that we already voted. It's already, and that's what you'll see if you Google or you search it. You're going to see John Patterson is already the next Speaker of the House. That is fake news. Okay? But that is the deception that these guys come in under is, we have no say, woe is me. We need fighters. We need shield hands. Like, no. Somebody needs to say, who said that? Where is that? Where's that in the rules? Well, it's not, because that is not constitutional. They can't just vote for people that aren't even in the House of Representatives yet.
So that's what you see. Each one of these articles, you'll see January 6th up here, because that is when, not that January 6th, but that very first day of session, when they meet and then they're sworn in, that's when they choose that. But they tell the newbies when they come in, this is just something technical. We already did this, just go along, just vote for him. We all vote for whoever the guy already was that we predetermined for you. And they actually believe, just so you know, the ones that are sitting there, they actually believe that to be the case. So they're just not perpetrating a lie to them. They actually believe it too, because the elite have been such good puppet masters with them that they don't know that they can officially change on that first day of session.
Scandal. Your current Speaker of the House in Missouri, do any of you know what a scandal he's been under? He's been under an ethics investigation this whole session?
Yes.
Yeah, he's in big trouble. The FBI has been in, I don't know, that's just what we're reporting, what the news is reporting, but it's kept really low key. Well, you want to talk about what he did? I mean, I kind of know what he did.
Real quick.
Yeah. Yes.
Has the Missouri Ethics Commission, have they come forward with their results?
It was never the Missouri Ethics Commission. It was an ethics commission that he appointed, a committee, where he appointed the chairman of that committee.
So you have the Fox, you have the Interior.
Guarding the hen house. Yes, sir. He picked the person, Hannah Kelly, okay, and if you know Hannah Kelly, I'm gonna be my nice self today.
So real quick, so where is the Missouri Ethics Commission on that?
We would love to know that too, because clearly there's been a massive, more than one actually, more than one thing that he's done, but you know what? Instead of like be worried about it, guess what he did? Do you want to tell him?
He's running for lieutenant governor.
I mean, that's the arrogance.
Who's his chief of staff?
That's Rod Jetton.
Rod Jetton. And what happened to Rod Jetton?
Well, former Rod Jetton was removed.
Yeah.
He was sent to jail, right?
I don't know about jail. He got in big trouble. I don't know.
He served time. Yes,
Yeah. So the issue is he is now, and if you listen to Shield Maidens, you're gonna, I mean, we've talked about this because this is the kind of stuff we talk about. Nobody else is talking about it. But that is who now the chief of staff is. But here's the deal. His former chief of staff is one of the most radical Democrats in the legislature. He is an enshrined Democrat that's been there for years. And they just moved him over to be the chief of staff for Caleb Rowden in the Senate. Yeah. So when you guys when we start connecting these dots, it's going to get way better in just a minute, because I'm going to tell you, it's not good, but you guys need to know, and I hope that it motivates you to, man, I just say, these guys, I told Lisa, they need a can of, you know what, opened up on there. You know, come on, like, this is ridiculous. It is worse than any R-rated movie. It is the most disgusting, and I'm going to show you a lot of things today, so we got to get going. But this is Missouri's House Speaker Dean Plocker dismisses calls for his resignation. That's this year. John Patterson, state representative, he is the floor leader. We are told he will be the next. He voted against the SAFE Act. Do you know what the SAFE Act is? And it's okay to say you don't. Is it? Okay, the SAFE Act is it was a law that was passed in Missouri that says you cannot do surgeries, reassignment surgeries, transgender surgeries in Missouri on children 18 and under, and hormone replacement. That's the law. He voted against it. He was one of only, I think, 2 Republicans to vote against it. This is who's going to be leading Missouri next year. Actually, I got this wrong. Someone corrected me. He did vote against or for the men and women's sports, so I got that one wrong. A week ago, an amendment was presented in the budget that removed $53 million for the advertisement of COVID vaccines. This just happened. He voted against it. It actually passed. John Patterson voted against it. And he just voted against IP reform. Yeah. Did you know all the Missouri leadership of the House and Senate would allow for our legislature in passing the SAFE Act and men and women's sports? Only has a 4-year, it sunsets in 4 years. We have a super majority of Republicans in the House, the Senate, we have the governor, and our leadership is so weak that law to protect our children sunsets in 4 years. It should have been a law, period. But that is the weakness we deal with in the leadership positions. Yeah.
Just related to like Greece, in addition to what you're saying about like we're gonna go visit person. Like I heard that like freshmen come in and they go to like training week or training days, and they get like brainwashed. You're trying to get behaved, and they get like stepped out.
It's a bus tour. They take them right away on a bus tour, but I'll tell you, it's even before that. So right now, the HRCC, which is, this is a committee that, I don't know how you explain
It's the
that,
House
really.
Republican Campaign Committee. It's where the kitty, where all the money's held, right? And everybody's scared of money because that's the lobbyists just put all the piles of money in this HRCC. Well, then leadership, it's whoever has the biggest purse. Whoever is the biggest sellout is who gets elected into leadership. Because everyone wants to win their seat again. They don't care about what they're doing is right or wrong. They want to get elected again. And so it's whoever has the biggest purse, which is disgusting. That means they're the biggest sellout to liberty, period. Okay, if they have that much money, because the lobbyists, they're not there for you guys, are they?
No, they're not there for you guys. And so just this week, HRCC invited even everyone that's on the ballot to come and meet with them because they're already starting their indoctrination. And then the day after they would, get elected into office, they have this bus tour. And what they do is they take them around on this bus tour and they show them these sites. And it's big camaraderie with everyone. And we just all go along to get along. And, John's going to like you as long as, you stay in your lane. He's the expert over here. And you just go and do whatever that speaker tells you, and we'll all just get along fine.
It's bad. This going on, this just shows you what Patterson's vote was. We've documented it. This story on John Patterson, the next supposed Speaker of the House, it just says Republican Representative Jonathan Patterson, a surgeon, said transplant recipients take medicine designated to shut down their immune system so their bodies won't reject the new organ. He said that puts them at greater risk of catching and getting sicker from COVID after surgery. Patterson said limits on who gets organ transplants are designed to ensure recipients have the best chance of getting well. I would hate to be that person that was second in line and watched that organ go to someone else and then they die of COVID 2 weeks later because they didn't want to get vaccinated. You guys need to understand, this is the kind of thing going on in your Missouri legislature. He is a rabid leftist Democrat that doesn't even vote with the Republicans most of the time on key issues. But this is who they're going to put in leadership. This is what's wrong with our state. This is the Senate leadership. This is a video. Can I play this? Will it sound? Is it good?
You have to use the mic against your speakers.
Okay. I'm gonna try to get this to work because this is Cindy O'Loughlin. So do you guys know about what happened with the parking places? Do you know? Yeah. Okay. So the hypocrisy of Cindy O'Loughlin, and we can skip this because we've got a lot. I think it's hilarious because she speaks such double speak. And so I'm gonna see if I can get this to work. Hang on a second. I'm super technologically challenged.
I don't want to see us devolve into personal attacks. You know what the definition of narcissism is?
Am I about to be called Dan?
You are the definition of it.
But it is important for us to experience adults and talk to them. Not punitive.
Today I made the following changes to our Missouri Senate Committee structure. The removal of Senator Denny Hoskins as the chair of the Committee on Economic Development and Tax Policy. The removal of Senator Denny Hoskins from the Senate Appropriations Committee. The removal of Senator Andrew Canning as chair of the Committee on Education and Workforce Development. The removal of Senator Bill Eigel as chair of the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Pensions. The removal of Senator Rick Bratton as chair of the Select Committee on the Protection of Missouri Assets from Foreign Adversaries. The removal of Rick Bratton as vice chair of the Committee on Education. The removal of Senator Rick Bratton as vice chair of the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Pensions. The naming.
In the midst of all that, and by the way, Senator, I just got notified that my parking space was taken. I just got notified the press is interested. They just took my parking space.
Given the choice between the two of you, I'd take the seasick crocodile.
There's another, so just so you know, that whole thing, the only people in the Senate that got punished were the conservatives. And you know why? Tell them why. Tell them.
Because they stood for the initiative petition, what they tell you that they're going to do all the time.
Yeah.
They actually said, we're not going to let you kill it. So since you're saying to everyone that this is our #1 priority as a party, we're going to force your hand. And we're going to stand and we're going to read books and we're going to discuss with one another called a filibuster until you bring this as the #1 priority. And they got completely hammered. All that happened to them. And let me tell you, when the Democrats stand and filibuster for the things that they want, there's been nothing removed from them. It is absolutely disgusting. I sat in a committee just the other day where Lauren Arthur, the Democrat, was chairing that committee, and our precious Senator Mike Moon, that stands up for all of you, even though you don't know it, okay? That Mike Moon had to sit under her.
So we have a Democrat as a chairman of a committee, a Democrat, a radical leftist. The issue is, guys, to take Denny Hoskins, there's two things that are the most egregious. To take Denny Hoskins, who has been on the Budget Committee in the House and been on the Budget Committee in the Senate, he has more institutional knowledge as a CPA than anyone else. He got kicked off totally the Budget Committee, so he can't put his eyeballs on what's going on in our budget because he's a man of character and honor. The other thing I'll say is when you take Bill Eigel and Rick Bratton off of the Veterans Affairs Committee and you put 2 retired teachers on it, that is wrong. A PE teacher and an ag teacher. No offense to them. That is wrong. You had 2 veterans standing up for veterans. They were taken off the leadership of that committee. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. So Cindy O'Loughlin, if you didn't know about this, she said if she had the power, and she's dead dog serious in this video, to remove Bill Eigel from the Senate, it would take 23 votes to do it. And if she could get Democrats to vote with her to remove him from the Senate, just because he's a leader and they're afraid of him, she would do it. And this is the video to prove it. And she said, but if the Democrats did it, I'd have to give them something real big. I'd have to negotiate big. I want you to hear it in her own words.
That's not it.
Yeah, it was a message to some of the, you can play ball or you can walk for
That's a message to all of them. If you're a chairman, you have extra money in your budget to do, whatever you have to do, because there is extra work. 2 years ago, you're already drinking. 2 years ago, I said, with 23 votes, you can throw somebody out of here. And I would do it today.
Would you throw out?
Bill. I absolutely would. And I told him that.
You would vote to expel?
Yes, I would.
You're going to make that motion?
I can't, I'd have to have 23 votes. And to get 23 votes, I'll have to get some Democrats to vote for it. And then I'll have to give up something big. So everything here is a trade-off, And there's not going to be 23 people, right now who want to do that. And I know people think, boy, that's a radical thing, but look where we're at here. And this is gone. I mean, if you covered what happens here for every year, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse.
So I'm going to stop that right there because I'm getting super mad and mad at her. The thing with that, just so you know, look what's happening in there.
Yeah.
We've got all these lobbyist priorities and they're busy and they're standing up for the people. We can't have that. They're slowing down all the promises we've made to get all the corporate stuff through. We can't have the Bill Eigels and Mike Moons, Rick Bratton, Denny Hop. We can't have them standing up for you guys on IP reform. They're getting in our way. I would kick him out if I could. That's what we're dealing with. She wants to be the next pro tem. That's, guys, and I think we just have to build this case. I'm going to take you to this. This is super important because all of these talking heads that are pushing and pushing and pushing for school choice are the same talking heads that brought us something last session. Now, I was a Missouri Mom Against Common Core. I have read tens of thousands of documents, not even kidding. My husband says I have a quadruple PhD in it, and I know everything. I've read every government document. I'll have him go to sleep because he thinks I'm crazy, and he'll see me by the light, my face all lit up by the light of the computer at 1 o'clock. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm reading this MOU. And he thinks I'm crazy because that's what I've done for years. So I understand what's happening. I'm going to illustrate the deception by illustrating a bill that passed last year that Lisa and I went to Bishop Davidson. And he brought, and I'll show you the language of the bill, and we begged him. I knew what it was. We already have health standards in Missouri, so he labeled his bill as health standards for Missouri, a requirement so every kid can graduate. We already have that. So the point was, when we read the bill, it says this: the 1/2 unit of credit in health education required by the state board shall be renamed Health and Family Education for the 2024 and 2025 school year. It actually gave a place for nonprofit organizations that focus on public health, parenting, and social services to come in and help write our new standards. Now, what could go wrong? I'm showing you all of this because we know what went wrong. It's exactly what we said would go wrong. And they had to come in and do a work group because this passed. Health education equals sex ed. We've been saying this. We've been watching with Common Core. There's something called a FOS. It's the future of sex ed. You go to the United Nations, it's all part of their pillars for the education. It matches it perfectly. They're all going to say, well, they're so crazy about United Nations. It's because it's true, and we can draw the line back to it. And so when we're looking at the future of health ed, this is what they call it, comprehensive sexuality education. You see up top, that's the United Nations Population Fund. And this is what it says in the legislation. The work group shall include, but not be limited to, important words, right? Educators providing instruction in health ed, and family and consumer science in grades 9 to 12, representatives from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and nonprofit organizations that focus on public health, parenting, and social services. Ding, 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 ding. Who said that? That's, yeah. Yes. However, they will mask themselves as something else. We already know what they're called. You're right. She said what it sounds a lot like Planned Parenthood. Yeah. Missouri already has health standards. Have you heard of comprehensive sex education? If you look at the blue screen, this is what's interesting if you can read it. It says there, developing scope and sequence, but down here at the bottom, the CDC, they're also a not-for-profit organization, right? You go to the CDC, look what they call it, sexual health education, but they put the sexual in front of it because they're being honest. Bishop Davidson was not honest. The National Sex Ed, back when we were watching Common Core 12 years ago, this was it. This was one of the last pillars of the Common Core, was to bring in, and I want you to look at this, core content and skills K through 12. National Sex Education Standards. Well, surely Missouri wouldn't do that. Oh, they did. Again, this isn't about 9 through 12, guys. This is National Sex Ed Standards. You're going to see CECUS, remember that right here. Core content and skills, kindergarten through 12th grade. No, I'm not kidding. Again, these are the same people calling us liars when it comes to school choice, and I'm like, oh, buckle up. You guys all voted for this last year, and you say we lied? We told you this. Now, we caught Bishop Davidson, because I came to the game a little late. Mike Moon was gone. They pushed it through. They had this in 5 different bills. That's how bad they wanted it. And we're going to show you the lobbyists that brought it, and it'll all make more sense in a minute. These are the endorsing organizations, the Human Rights Campaign, the Center for Human Sexuality Studies, the Gender Spectrum, the Sex Ed Collaborative, CDC, CECUS, the United Nations. Sorry. This one, I get stuck in, oh, it's like. So when you look at this, I don't know what's wrong with this. I tried to get fancy with my PowerPoint and it's like all stuck, so. But anyway, so do you want to talk about how we cornered Bishop? Talk about that and let me see if I can get this through last year.
So when we told Bishop about how bad this was before they passed it, Bishop, just said, we should do this now while there's conservatives in here, because if we don't do it now, then it'll be even worse when the Democrats are in power. And that was kind of the excuse. And I, in particular, had told Bishop about how egregious this was, because in the bill, it actually had done something that I've never seen before. And that was, it took away our ability to have the meetings beforehand.
It had to typically go through public comment.
Yes.
Any standards changes typically would go through public comment. So like I was appointed by the Senate Pro Tem when we passed the Kill Common Core bill. That was the one the Missouri moms drove across the state. I spoke in 150 cities and did this, educated people. And it was awesome because they went home and did their own research. And then they demanded better. The problem is they gutted it, and we learned a lot the hard way. But we got appointed to these committees, and we had to go to DESI and act like, and that's, I could write a book and I could talk 2 hours about what I learned with that and how corrupt it is. It's corrupt. But everything you do has to go to the public, or supposed to. But it's funny, they didn't take this to the public. Yeah.
So this was supposed to be taken to the public 3 times for input, and they removed that altogether. They didn't want you to be able to see. They didn't want your input. I think this leads to something Cindy O'Laughlin had said that on one of the times when she said, those people just need to stay at their school board meetings. And what she was saying, and the tone that she was saying it is, we got it here. Like, They need to just stick to their little
Yeah,
community.
leave us alone. Let us do what we have to do. So what happened last summer is they had the writing standards group, which I've been on one of those. I knew what that was going to entail. But this is what it looked like. Great. So guess what? How we got this? We sunshine requested it, much to their dismay. So like when Lisa's talking about, there are lots of bills where they're trying to take away our ability to sunshine. Well, we actually got the sunshine. And unfortunately for them, I know what I'm reading. I know what I'm looking at. So this is what it looked like. This was the spring of 2024. And what you're going to see here is they talk about human sexuality, which okay, it's a health class. But the most concerning thing is the CDC reviewed indicators. So they're really bringing, there's your not-for-profit piece, right? Effective curricula and used input from experts in health education development. They were sharing personal, here's your, okay, have you ever heard the term social emotional learning? Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to teach you today, we saw this in 2013. That's your values, attitudes, dispositions, and beliefs, okay? We learned this in 2013 from reading government documents. But look right here. So SEL is really CRT. It's DEI. It's all of it. So all these jokers who come here and are like, we're going to get rid of CRT. That's what I'm running on. We're going to get rid of it in our schools. Well, every one of them just about voted for this. And this is the portal they brought it in through. Talks about shaping personal values and beliefs that support healthy behaviors, shaping group norms. Goes on to say, again, there's the not-profit. I've got my slides out, but here's it says in the legislation, they will convene a work group, and they're going to include nonprofit organizations that focus on public health, parenting, and social services, and they're going to bring in the curriculum. Going into, they're going to talk about how individual, interpersonal, community, societal, and environmental influences affect health equity. You guys, DESE is the cancer in our schools. Yeah. I'm proving it right now. But we cannot get their boot off the neck of our public schools. Our public schools are failing. Yes, they are. But I'm going to talk about why in a second. This is the big one for me, guys. This is in the Missouri from the work group, okay? Sexual health education is a comprehensive and sequential combination of learning experiences that provide the opportunity to acquire information and skills needed to promote human sexual development, avoid HIV, STIs, or unintended or mistimed pregnancies. Now, stick with me here, because this is where I get mad. Sexual health ed uses medically accurate, as defined by we don't know who, CDC, developmentally appropriate and culturally responsive information and evidence-based strategies across pre-K. Wow. Pre-K through 12. This is your Missouri standards definitions, you guys. Pre-K. This is Bishop Davidson's bill. Holly Rader was the senator who sponsored it on the other side. So you're going to wonder why little kids on their iPads are seeing like these weird things about sexuality. Your Republicans did this to you. So again, I have to prove to you what's been happening. This is the proof of what we said was true, and we're told, well, you guys see black helicopters. No, we read what you're doing to us. So again, having to build this, again, this talks about pre-kindergarten scope and sequence. This is in the Missouri framework. Okay, this didn't come from national. This came from the Sunshine Request from DESE. And if you'll see right here, it's scope and sequence, a progression of essential health knowledge, skills, behaviors, to be addressed at each grade level. That's the sequence. From pre-K through 12th grade. We don't know what they're doing because every child now has an iPad or a Chromebook. When kids come home and say, Mama, I saw something bad. I saw something bad. You go to school, because I've traveled all over Missouri talking about this stuff. Well, what did you see? It's bad, Mom. I don't want to tell you, Mama. You go to the principal and you say, I want to see what they, oh, that's a link. I mean, we don't have that anymore. You guys, the problem is DESE. DESE is the department. Thank you for asking. Can you guys feel free to ask that? Because I know I get in my own head. You gotta get on to me more. Because DESE is the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in Missouri. So they're like the state federal Department of Ed. We have our own Department of Ed. It has more employees than any other bureaucratic agency in the state of Missouri.
And it gets a lot of money.
It is obscene. And they're pushing and driving an agenda. Yes?
So they passed it last year?
Yeah, they did. And it was in 5 different bills that we found. Lisa and I sat one night and I came up to help her because she was already there. We were reading omnibus language until wee hours of the morning. We were reading 1,000 pages a day. And I seriously, there are moments where I just started shaking. I was so upset, and I could just feel like crying my tears now. But it was just the most appalling thing that they're doing to us. And that's where it's like, you know what? Let's take up our sword of truth. Let's put on breastplates of righteousness. Let's go fight. So anyway, it also says scope and sequence should be aligned with national or state or local. Yeah, it did. So then you go into curricular framework. Again, that's where curricular framework talks about here, and they're coding, but they talk about human sexuality. But here's your guidelines from the CDC. And again, I'm going to skip through this pretty quick. But these are different agencies that actually were invited to speak into the standards. And again, I'm just going to treat all people with dignity. This was HECAT. These were part of the things that shaped the framework. This is all from the Sunshine Request. Recognize developmental changes experienced by self and others. Treat all people with dignity, respect for gender identity, sexual orientation. And again, of course we want to tell our kids to do that. Treat everybody right. But I don't want my kindergartner learning about what a transgender is. Sorry. It's just not appropriate. But they're deciding for us what's appropriate.
Yeah, so we had sunshined a few years ago, and we had sunshined all the sexual curriculum before this happened. And what we're finding is in the kindergarten and all that, where that is, with the sexual orientation and all that, they're redefining words. And so what you see is even bullying. Bullying is not the bullying that you and I once viewed that as. So bullying to you and I were, Jack is pushing down Jan. That's no longer what they say is bullying. They're saying bullying is when you won't call Jack Jan, and therefore you're the bully.
Yeah, so we got to be really careful because, again, a new thing, if you look it up, and I didn't include it because I have a gazillion things still to go over, is the CDC has a document called Surveillance and Bullying. So look it up. Just Google it. You'll find it. It's called Surveillance and Bullying, but they want a universal definition of bullying now. So when we're reading bills, we're constantly watching the word bullying because it doesn't mean what you think it means anymore, and it's super dangerous. Because they're pigeonholing kids that are Christians, or if somebody says, I'm a boy, I'm like, no, you're a girl. No, I'm a boy. No, you're really a girl. That's considered bullying. So, again, health education, crosswalk. This came from Shape America, and I can show you the list of people. There were 2 individuals that said on this you guys, if you're taking notes, write this down. Look up Shape America, because it's not like getting in shape. It's like we're going to shape your mind to believe the way we want, right? So Shape America, there are 2 members. The Castle Doctrine. Castle is the social emotional learning. That is everything. And we're going to talk about the United Nations has brought in something called transformative social emotional learning. And that is the goal of everything now. So again, I could go way far in the weeds, and I want to get through a lot of this because I got a lot of stuff I got to show you. SEL is relevant for all students, diverse cultures, strategy. Again, to promote equity is the biggest goal, social emotional development. Social emotional development, values, attitudes, dispositions, and beliefs should happen in your home. Remember when I said 2 + 2 and God pricked my spirit and said, you gotta pay attention. It was this. It was this that was coming. Your health and sexuality standards brought this in. Castle, again, pre-K grade 2, it just shows that they're identifying healthy behaviors, personal health. There's multiple, quote, dimensions of health, identifying their emotions, self-perception. This is in kindergarten. It's called brainwashing. Yeah.
Control.
What?
Control. 100%
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yes. This was the document. If you look it up, it's incredibly hard to find. This came from 2013. What was so interesting about it back then, it was how do you measure, right? Values, attitudes, dispositions, and beliefs. They would talk about, they would have like a seat that kids would have to sit in, and if they moved too much, or their eye movement on the cameras, we're monitoring them, or their heartbeat based on the mouse. That's what this document showed us in 2013. So of course, when I saw the language, I knew immediately what it was, right? Because I read all this stuff for the last 10 years. But I was called a conspiracy theorist. You guys are, no. They need to listen, but they're too arrogant.
So I just want to interject there. When that happened with the seats and we had these documents, I was somewhere else. I was actually in St. Louis County, and I was at a school board meeting at Lindbergh. And the Post-Dispatch actually was taking multiple pictures of me to put on the Post-Dispatch about that meeting. Because when we were confronting them about this Common Core and what they were doing with buzzing the kids if they weren't getting the right answer, I kept asking the school board, are you going to do this to our children? That's what I want to know. And they would never answer. And so the next person would say, I revert back to her question, ask her, answer her question. And I'd ask again, are you going to do this to our children? They would never answer.
So here's the deal. It says, students, this was one of the things that always stuck out to me of this very long document. And if you guys want to look it up and see if you can find it, it's called Promoting Grit, Tenacity, and Perseverance, Critical Factors for Success in the 21st Century. This is a statement that got me though. Students can develop psychological resources that promote grit, tenacity, and perseverance. The research synthesis points to 3 facets, all of which having been shown to be malleable and teachable in certain conditions, meaning we can shape them. We're going to shape them. So the students are to achieve their full potential. They must have opportunities to engage and develop a much richer set of skills. There is a growing movement to explore the potential of the non-cognitive factors, attributes, disposition, social skills, attitudes, and interpersonal resources, independent of their intellectual ability. There it is, you guys. That's what we're doing to our kids. That's why they can't read. That's why they don't know math. Is we're teaching them how to believe. Remember I said God pricked my spirit. It's like they're taking God out of the equation. This is secular humanism. They're putting in the vessel what they want them to believe. Anyway, it goes on, talks about quality instruction, how important, quote, supportive adults are. So you hear about safe rooms or safe places for kids, seeking acceptance for everyone. That's a teacher. If your kid thinks that I may be gay, well, you can go to that teacher where you're safe. That's your supportive adults, and that's very dangerous. I'm going to scoot through this. This was Common Core. The Common Core State Standards Initiative was based on teacher evaluations. It was teacher evaluations based on compliance. Okay? But everything boils down to, guys, is one score. They take a MAP test every year. It's one test that we cannot see after it's administered. But your score, accreditation for your school, is determined on that.
Wait, sit there for a minute. You tell me to slow you down. No one can see the test. I'm going to say this again. No one can see the test. The parents can't see the test. The superintendents can't see the test. The teachers can't see the test. And you know what we're told when we go into the elected offices? They say, well, then they'll just teach to the test. They've been brainwashed. How many years I don't know, any of you sitting in here that our teachers had the test, they had a physical test, and I guess you could say they were teaching to the test, but they knew what we were going to be what they were teaching us, where we were deficient in learning, all those
A
things.
spelling test. I wanted to know what spelling questions I got wrong. You know, it's how I get better.
Right.
We all did that, right?
Yeah.
Not anymore, guys. Not anymore. So MSIP, the Missouri School Improvement Program, DESE, the Department of Education in Missouri, we go 4 steps further than most every state in the country. We have a more radical Department of Education in the state of Missouri than almost every other state in the country because we allow them to bring in something called accreditation. Okay? So based on that one score, our schools are accredited, our teachers are evaluated, our students are evaluated, and if that one score, which, okay, if you can't see the test, you don't know how to improve, because they always talk about growth. Well, you've got to show growth. Well, what does that mean if my husband's a football coach, right? And he says, if I could not watch my film after a game and see where we were good and where we were bad. My husband's a Hall of Fame coach in Missouri, and his father before him. So I come from a very high-scale football family. But he said, if I couldn't see it, the film, how would you ever get better? It's asinine, you guys. I believe the United Nations could have a hand, or China, or in writing our tests. But we can't see them. We don't know where they're going, for what purposes, who's holding them, and how they're being scored. But when we say this, when we go to the Capitol, they're like, I don't know what to tell you. It's unbelievable. I'm just like, oh my gosh, Lisa, do I have what is going on? Because they act like I'm crazy, or we're crazy. So anyway, oh my gosh. MSIP is accreditation. DESE writes the rules, DESE judges the rules, and they decide whether you're going to have what's called provisional accreditation or they're going to take your accreditation. You will do what they tell you, how they tell you, or they will take over your school, and our legislature lets them do it every day. What we are seeing right now with, quote, school choice is part of the whole initiative. Common Core wasn't just a set of standards. It was a full-on initiative to take the minds and souls and the hearts of our children through public education. And on the other side, let me tell you something. I'm going to blow your mind at the end, because you know who's pushing as hard as they can to get your taxes quadrupled in Missouri? You want to tell them? The education lobby. Because we're pushing to privatize all public ed, all of it. Bill Gates, he wants your tax dollars on your real estate. Bill Gates, yeah. Zuckerberg, yeah. Zuckerberg, Bezos, they all want a hand in this new virtual ed thing. And your little measly tax dollars, which we think is plenty, guys, if you're not watching what's happening in Jackson County, you better be. And I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. Problem, no one can see the test. These are all the people. See the MoShape? There's your MoShape people. These were the people that were writing all these standards, right? MoShape. Truman State University, that'll make more sense in just a second. You come back in here. Oh, this is I'm just going through a video here. MoShape is right here. And this is just a video where I'm Kids First. Yeah, so I have a video. Mostly it's me talking, it's a video, but you don't need to hear me, because basically what I'm doing, it's my voice.
That is the most
I'm just scrolling.
Is their approach to social and emotional learning.
So what it is, it's MoShape. If you guys look it up, it's social emotional learning. So that's who's sitting on the board of writing the new health standards. And so that is where
and again, Stacy, so we have current reps, senators that are saying, we're going to put forth a bill to get rid of social emotional learning. We're like, you keep passing it every year. You keep expanding it every year. And then you talk about passing a bill to ban it. So you talk about the doublespeak. So either there's an ignorance on their part that they have no idea what they're actually passing, or they're just lying. I mean, it's one of the it's one or the other.
Keep talking. We got
Yes.
So I think I heard you guys on the phone a few Sundays ago talking about this. And you're saying how, like, I want to help Johnny with the homework, or, but they're patented tests, and I can't get a copy of the patented tests.
So talk about that.
So what they're saying is it's proprietary and they enter into memorandums of understanding. But we've had proprietary tests, I'm going to say again, for years, and this was not a problem. The problem really is in the memoranda of understanding, which they're doing this everywhere. It's not just education. It's because it's worked so well in education, they're using it in other places. Because they enter into what's called a memoranda of understanding, and then you never get to see it. That's how they're keeping it sealed in secret. And again, it's not just here now. They found that it works so well with education to keep it hidden that they're starting to use it other places, that wherever they enter into a memorandum of understanding, you, the people, can't see it. And they're saying it's because it's proprietary. Well, what we should be saying is it's our tax dollars, and if there's anything that requires you to enter into a memorandum of understanding, that should be prohibited. Because that's our money. There should be nothing entered into that we can't see.
I'm going to do a reset over here, the enemy, because y'all say a little prayer, because the best stuff is yet to come. What we're going to talk about, I'm going to have to start over. I'm going to have to turn it off and turn it back on. But what I will tell you, I'm going to show you, so many of your senators and your state reps are so threatened by this. There is massive money on the back end of this, you guys. The tweets. Do you guys know who Tim Jones is by any chance?
Yes.
Today he wrote the most vile tweet I've ever seen. He accused a mom who's incredibly conservative. She was, her whole thread was conservative. Asking a question, he's like, I'm sorry that you're wrong. It was about caucus yesterday, and I can't fulfill your wet dream. That's what Tim Jones, when it comes to, and I'll show it to you. It happened today.
He said that today?
Yeah, I have a tweet. I'll show you.
And so, can you refresh the memories of the people that are in this room? Is he supposed to be the leader of the Freedom Caucus?
Yeah. You talk about how
So he is the leader of the Freedom Caucus, and just, of course, I would have to talk about Tim Jones because I have had a good working relationship with Tim Jones. And I just say that because as the leader of the Freedom Caucus, it has caused us to really be going against one another, because he has always been a huge proponent of school choice. And we've never seen eye to eye with that. And as the leader, I knew that with that position, that he was going to be running that agenda, and that wouldn't be good for the members of the Freedom Caucus because they would be at odds with one another. And that's exactly what's happened. He's taken that position that is his major position and just advanced it. And there's just even more division now within that Freedom Caucus.
The problem is we don't know who's paying Tim Jones' bills, right? Well, so Tim Jones gets brought in, but he's employed somewhere by different entities that have interest, and nobody knows who those are.
Rick Sickfield?
According to Justin Sparks, when he was here last month, was that last month?
Yeah.
He was told by the National Freedom Caucus that they would get him a leadership, and that he wouldn't have to worry about who was paying for that. So if the National's paying for that,
yeah. And again,
I question Justin Sparks on that specifically.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. I want to talk about wraparound services. It's super important. It's ed to med, guys. Do you guys have any clinics in your schools right now? Well, it's coming. It's all over Missouri. Ed to med. That means they have, like in Osage Beach where I live, a wraparound services. Moms and dads are busy. We're just going to send you over to the doctor. It's being paid for by Medicaid services. They have health clinics. Look it up, you guys. It's happening all over the country. Kids are being taken in and given birth control without their parents' knowledge or consent. But ed to med, what's happening with all of these digital tests on the computer, kids are actually going in and having to take surveys, and they're innocent. They don't know that everything has an algorithm attached. They take a test, they're a red flag. They believe in Jesus. Well, they're crazy. They have a mental health issue, right? They believe in the Second Amendment. We don't know because nobody can see what the surveys and the tests look like because they're either copyrighted or they're proprietary and they won't show them to the parents. These are the laws that need to be getting passed right now. But they're using your children as human research, which is illegal. But your superintendents usually are signing off in lieu of every parent in the district, and that information is being, they say, shared, which means sold. I had a great privilege because public education is a national security threat, and I could go into that in depth. But I had the privilege of these guys that are special ops, listening to like radio shows and things that I did. And they brought me on the National Rifle Association on a show called Defending My America, and I got to sit at the table with some of the most prolific veterans that I still to this day have incredible admiration for. But one of them said, do you realize this has been 8 years ago, data's the new oil? And I said, what does that mean? And he goes, if one child touches a screen or a keyboard 100 times or 1,000 times, every single keystroke means something and can be monetized to 1,000 different entities that'll buy it. Your children, our children, are slaves to this because they are being monetized, and our government, our state government, should shut it down, but they don't. It's disgusting. But instead we do stuff like this, right? What's that?
It's awesome. Phones.
Oh, their phones, 100%. And they want to promote that. Because again, the more data they can retrieve, the more money on the back end. 10 years ago, I sat in hearings and I watched them fly in, and I always ask Lisa, was it high-level lobbyists or like the normal guys? Because you can tell by their suits and their shoes, right? And she goes, nope, today's hearing was the big guns. Because they come in wearing $5,000 suits. You know when it's a big deal, right? So when this whole Common Core thing started to happen, they started forcing the test to be taken on the computer. You had no choice. Even as a small school district, you had no choice. Well, most school districts did not have the ability to have a server that was large enough to handle that 10 years ago. We didn't have the Wi-Fi, we didn't have the internet, but do you know who came to the rescue? Google. Google came into the hearings. I sat, I listened, I heard them all. Oh, don't worry. We're here to save the day. We'll give you the cloud for free. What's happening right now, they also brought in Chromebooks and iPads. And they brought those in for an incredibly rebated price because they're the vehicle to get the data. But now what's happening, guys, your school districts, because of MSEP, the School Improvement Program, have to have the technology in order to keep their accreditation. And so what's happening now, you just have to know, is that now your schools are really struggling financially. That's why most schools are taking any grant they can get with all the strings attached, because they're gonna come to you for your tax dollars. Our school budget where I live has gone up $3 million in 5 years because of the technology. It got brought in real cheap. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. This is mental health. What does it mean? I want you guys to get this. Charlie Shields. He has been on the State Board of Education for the last 20 years. He was a senator and state rep before that. He is actually termed out, but he is still the president. Charlie Shields is the Chamber of Commerce in Kansas City star. He's their star, I mean. He is the CEO of what was Truman. It's University Health Now. They do LGBTQ health. They're the healthcare equality leader. This is from their website. They're an LGBTQ specialty clinic. His wife is a state rep named Brenda Shields. She is the chairman of the higher education. Her bills go through at an alarming rate, and she is as liberal as they come. Charlie Shields, that's his wife Brenda, and here you go. Brant Shields is the chief lobbyist for the Missouri School Board Association. Okay, the lobbyist for the Missouri School Board Association. So you see a little triangle there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to scoot through that, but you guys need to know that.
How are they related?
Charlie Shields and Brenda Shields, husband and wife. Branch is their son. Yep. Yeah, see, and you know why your superintendents are so bad so often? One of the entities, the only entities, there's more than one, but the predominant in the state that does superintendent searches is the MSBA. You will get a superintendent that will comply with DESE, and they're going to hand you one on a silver platter that'll do everything DESE wants. Because the MSBA, I'll just refresh you, the National School Board Association, that was where Merrick Garland, remember, was coming after the parents, and they were a part of that would stand up at school board meetings. And the National School Board Association, which is we were members of, or we were part of that, the Missouri School Board Association, you have to get continuing education every 2 years as a school board member. That means you have to get indoctrinated every 2 years. What is school choice? Let's go. So school choice, this is a guy named Corey DeAngelis. Now when Common Core was going through, it was a guy, there was a different guy. But it was a single guy, never had kids, just like him. And all of a sudden, he'd never been a teacher, but he is an expert on education policy. This guy goes along like a rock star, taking selfies with all your politicians, and it's like kind of like a concert when he comes in. So it's become like this sound bite that nobody truly understands, but you need to do it because everybody else is doing it, right? So we watch him, but here's the deal. He's affiliated with the Show Me Institute. If you know what the Show Me Institute is, do you know what this, Rex Singfeld. Stay tuned, just stick with me. But
wait, go back and read what says underneath it, underneath this picture.
At the home of Rex and Jeannie Singfeld.
The answers will be provided to those who RSVP.
That's exactly right.
Who is he? He's a billionaire in St. Louis.
He's a billionaire who has always tried to shape public ed and has a huge, huge interest in school choice and charters, and we're going to get into that. But here's the interesting thing. They scrubbed this from the internet, but this guy, Corey DeAngelis, he worked for the UNESCO Inclusive Policy Lab. UNESCO is the United Nations Education and Science Arm. This is where your school choice is coming from. Now, everybody caught on to him, and people like me that know about Agenda 21, and I know about all the Common Core, I was like, whoa, that is a red flag. Because we know where this is all coming from. You go to the UNESCO, you go to Education 2030, and there it is, school choice. Why does the United Nations care about school choice? There it is. Centralization and control of the school choice and admissions procedures, common priority, criteria for public and private subsidized schools, calendars, and procedures. So know this, in Missouri, Senate Bill 727 is the school choice bill right now. 4 years ago, what's that guy's name? Cristofanelli. 2021, he brought it. It was a $25 million allowance for millionaires or billionaires or just ordinary people to make philanthropic donations up to, but not to exceed $25 million, and you would get a tax credit. Not normal people, like me, like I do $18. You know, I mean, it's not like us. But so they don't have to pay taxes. That's what Bill Gates does with the Gates Foundation, and Hillary Clinton does with the Clinton Foundation. All these millionaires and billionaires get out of paying their taxes because they can make a donation. Okay? So yeah, they don't need it, exactly. But their philanthropy is guiding policy in the United States of America. So I did a radio interview with Cristofanelli, who wrote the first bill, a few weeks ago on Real Talk Radio. And it was super fun, actually. It was super fun. I love that stuff. Everybody says something's wrong with me, but I love it. Because, you know, his whole thing is this. A tax credit is not government money. Yes, it is. If you don't have to pay your taxes and it's getting washed through the treasurer's office and you get 160 pages of regulations attached to it, yeah, it becomes government money. Sorry, Cristofanelli. But anyway, so this is the UNESCO. UNESCO, another document, Global Education Monitoring, Parental Choice, and the Rights to Education, revisiting Article 27 of the Universal Declaration. They have an interest in school choice. this is what the United Nations wants, is something called transformative social and emotional learning towards the service of educational equity and excellence. Transformative SEL. If somebody has a Dropbox, I'm happy to share all this so you can read it. I'm not going to go through it, but I'll just tell you this. It talks about this. Social and economic inequities that derive from the interrelated legacies of racialized cultural oppression in the United States and globally. Transformative SEL represents as yet underutilized approach that SEL researchers and practitioners can use if they seek to address issues such as power, privilege, prejudice, discrimination, social justice, empowerment, and self-determination. This is what we're dealing with. This is what Bishop Davidson brought to us. So when everybody acts like, well, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, they voted for 447 last year. We told them not to. And these are the same guys that are bringing in this. Okay? SEL equals TRT. Krista Finelli, his bill was from 2021 for those taking notes. It was called HB 349. The thing that stuck out, and if you heard my radio interview with him, he made provision to fund with education savings accounts the International Baccalaureate. The International Baccalaureate is United Nations. How do I know? We had it at my school. The tests, the papers get shipped, and it's only really for the higher end kids. You know, they get recruited because they're the smarties. And they want all the smarty pants, you know. It's a disgusting program. It is anti-capitalist, it is anti-American, it is anti-God. I read the materials with my own eyes because they wanted my Sophie. And I said, you know what, you can't have her. I'm not lending not one single brain cell to make your program look good. And like, well, she's probably gonna move down a rank in her class. I'm like, you know what, I guess that's fine. But I didn't want her papers to be sent overseas to Geneva, Switzerland to get graded. She would not retain her own intellectual property. Anyway, the other question I have, this is a question every single one of you should ask. We've had vouchers since 2021 in Missouri. How are they working? Where's the data that says they're doing good? Like, could somebody show us the data, please, so we can decide if we want it now? Because surely we have some data, right? That is never a question that's asked. Yes, sir.
Chris Finelli is running for the Senate in St. Charles.
Yes. Okay, so here's the big one. Did any of you hear the radio interview with myself and Nick Schroer?
Yes.
Yeah, that was ugly, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'll play a little bit of that because I love it. Because honestly, it just shows how vital they are.
Yes.
Nick wrote an opinion piece that I read, and this is what it said. Okay, he's like, education choice, a hill I'm willing to die on. I'm like, okay. But he says this, many others have led this fight for school choice, embracing the principles of limited government. Okay. In the state of Missouri, recent test scores have reflected that monopolizing the government school model of education, pouring more money into said system year after year, has failed. That's true. I can agree with that, right? School choice, limited government, there it is again, and parental empowerment and must remain as key elements. Okay, yeah, I agree. So let's finally work together to embrace the vision and priorities and the best interest of all Missouri kids. Okay, and I looked at the budget of his bill. I mean, $8 million is nothing.
8 minutes done.
Nothing. But the thing that was so interesting, I want you to see did you listen to the interview? Or have you seen, oh yeah, it's so good. So good. Because I got asked to be on the other radio station. Okay? And so I go on and we're going to talk about school choice. But I had just done a podcast, and if you're not following Shield Maidens of Missouri, it's a Substack. Every single thing we talk about, I try to note so you can click on it and do your own research. Well, so Nick Schroer wrote this, so I just did a quick 10-minute podcast about how ridiculous it was, because his bill 902, it mentions DESE, the Department of Education, over 70 times, and gave them the authority to promulgate all the rules after it became the law, over 19 times. Talk about what that means, because that's super important.
Well, when we go into promulgating the rules, what it means is they are taking the authority that they've been given as the legislature and putting it in an unelected body. And if you get the premise of the Constitution at all, you know that you want the division of powers. That's why it exists. And so when you do that, you're handing that over not just to the governor's entities, but really it's even going beyond the governor's entities at this point. And it becomes a shadow government. That's really what's happening. And those rules and regulations are considered law even though they're not law. And I had a personal experience with that during COVID with Walgreens. I'll use that experience. We had some freedom doctors that they were wanting to prescribe hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And I was helping them find these healthcare freedom doctors and then making sure that they got dispensed at the pharmacies. We were having big problems at the pharmacies because they were not dispensing. So when I called Walgreens and said, okay, you have a doctor's order, why are you not dispensing the meds? And their response to me was, well, because there's a law that says that we cannot dispense those meds. I said, that's absolutely incorrect. Can you show me the law? She said, sure. And so she got back on the phone and she quoted to me a rule. I said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but that is not a law, that is a rule. And she said, well, then you need to talk to our attorneys because they say, according to the insurance company, a rule is a law if we want to keep our insurance.
So that's why the thing is, you guys, every time these Republicans allow the promulgation after the fact, the hammer comes in the rules. You can't see it in the bill, and it should be in the bill. So when we're all wondering, like, why the shadow government? Why is this getting so out of hand? It's because people like Nick Schroer allowed DESE to promulgate rules after something becomes the law 19 times. But the most important thing, before I play this part of his interview, each educational assistance organization shall. That's an acronym for EAO. Everybody knows that. If you know school choice, you know what that means, an EAO, okay? So I was on this radio show, and I didn't expect him to come on. I thought it was just going to be me for an hour. But I'm just going to play you a little snippet, so this is a good one. So do I just put my microphone up here? I've got them all ready for it, and I'm afraid. Oh no. Oh no, it's not playing.
It started.
There it goes.
There you
go, okay.
Is there any audio yet?
Oh yeah, oh here. Oh, it's not letting me.
What is an EAO? What is it? I'm curious myself.
Hang on, let me go back, because this is really good, and I don't know if I can actually go back.
From people that claim that they are part of the Republican Party, get the hell out of here. Either lose the ball or get the hell out of the way.
What is an EAO? What is it? I'm curious
I asked him what an EAO was.
Let's question this. Do you know what that is, Nick? An EAO. Do you know what it is?
What is the bill?
He doesn't know.
The language that you cited earlier was nowhere on page whatever it was.
Okay.
You've got the bill in front of you, do you not?
Go ahead. What is an EAO? You tell us, because I'm curious myself. I'm sure the audience wants to know.
This organization is an entity that is made up in this bill, and we just want to know who that's going to be. But that entity can contract with private financial management firms to manage the scholarship, the ESA money. So, when we look at, I don't know who Nick had on last night, who was that? Was it Americans for, what was Gina?
We had Representative Doug Ritchie and Gene Evans.
Yeah, Gina, she's a lobbyist, right? She works for American Federation of Children. If you do a little bit of research, what your listeners are going to realize, American Federation of Children is radical and woke. And basically, she levied a threat that we were leftist and well-funded. I'm not funded at all. I am
looking at page 2, to answer your question, looking at page 2 of the bill, this is existing language. This has nothing to do with new language in the bill. 135.713, any taxpayer who makes a qualifying contribution to an educational assistance organization after August 28, 2021 141 may claim a credit against the tax otherwise due under Chapter 143. This is existing law. You read it, garbage has no place in actually moving the ball forward. This is why I'm so sick and tired of this cynical argument. I'm mad. I'm mad because you want to sit here and masquerade yourself as a Republican, but make these garbage podcasts that sound like sweaty balls from SNL and spread lies like crazy.
So he said that our podcast sounded like sweaty balls. This is your senator from St. Charles, guys. And he used the word bull S. I mean, he's profane. I was asking incredibly smart questions, and it really shouldn't be that smart. He's an attorney. If you listen to the whole interview, I kept saying, you're an attorney. He goes, well, I asked Senator Koenig. I said, he's a drywaller. You're an attorney. You should be able to answer your own question. But when you look, but this is what he also, this is a Facebook snippet, one of the most dumbass induced posts. This wasn't about me. This was a constituent in his district who was asking intelligent questions. One of the most dumbass induced posts I've seen, remember our heartbeat bill, which... Or how about defunding Planned Parenthood? Fiscal notes have been weaponized by bureaucrats, don't want conservative policies. Guess you've taken the bait. You spent more time writing this garbage and making cute memes than you did reaching out. Who would ever want to reach out to him? This is how he treats people. And again, they want to call us leftist and Marxist and liberals. No, we're just smart. We've taken the time to read the bills. I want you guys, let's go into the bill really quickly because I want you to see what I was asking them. This is old language, and again, they start with 25 million. This year it's 75 million. In 3 years it could be 250 million, right? So they're incrementally stepping the money up every few years. But this is what it says: an educational assistance organization, which is a not-for-profit. You have no way to sunshine a not-for-profit, right? So money's going to go, the scholarship money, to an EAO, and they may contract with private financial management firms to manage scholarship accounts with the supervision of the state. But if you want to sunshine request that, forget about it. It's private. So they're taking money and they're saying, well, they're tax credits, so we have anything to do with that. Yeah, you're laundering it through the treasurer's office to tag regulations onto it. So the issue becomes, we don't know, because in the law, there are no guardrails, and the EAO makes a commission. The state treasurer's office makes a commission. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to interject here for a minute, because when the first school choice bill was passed with Andrew Koenig, he assured everyone that the treasurer's office would be a better place instead of DESE. So that's why it went under the treasurer's office, and we keep saying every year, you can't hand it over to another entity. You are the legislative body. Put in what you want. That's your job. But then let's fast forward with that bill. What actually ended up happening in the treasurer's office is he wrote a rule, the treasurer's office wrote a rule from that and said that any homeschooling family that took that money was then subject to every single adult in the household getting a background check.
18 and over.
Background check on every adult. We don't do that to the public schools. We don't do that to the private schools. And yet he went after, Fitzpatrick went after the homeschoolers when he did that. And who is that? The same people that are expanding this model.
Yes.
That's who put him in office.
Yeah. So when you see this, you guys know this. There's commissions attached to this money. And we don't know the private financial firms. Well, we don't know what they're doing with the money and what they have to do with any money they make off the money and how they have to show that to the public because they're private. So when you start to understand the heartburn, it's like we have really valid questions that nobody seems to know. Like I say, is this a Ponzi scheme? And I don't really know. I'm just saying, theoretically, a millionaire or billionaire could move their money into an EAO that they have control of, and then they have the contract to their private management firm. Like I said, it was 25 million This bill is 75 million. In 2 years, it could be 250 million.
But they're saying this bill is upwards of 800 million.
That gentleman,
Yes.
you have a question? I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, can you say slowly what EAO stands for?
It's an educational assistance organization.
Educational
Yep.
Assistance Organization.
It is. And so what that,
Is it a private?
it is. It's a not-for-profit, supposedly, but they do get a significant commission. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so our Senator Brown is in favor of school choice.
And he's wrong.
And I have argued with him about it. I told him that in the 1980s, they tried to get school choice through the Jefferson City.
Phyllis
And the
Schlafly was
homeschoolers were
opponent.
there in mass against it. I said, they will take control of every homeschool child.
That's
That
right.
is why they want this. They want
Yes.
not only the public school kids, they want every kid
Private school.
alive. They want control of the next generation.
That's right.
They said, oh, I assure you that it won't happen. We have a way of excluding the homeschool.
No, they don't.
And I just looked at him like, you're crazy. I mean,
Crazy.
I helped elect that guy, and he knows, I walked.
He believes what he's saying, though. But I mean, it's just our job, and I agree. But it's our job to convince him, and when I say our job, it has to be the constituents. He has to be hearing that.
How can you convince him when he's?
I wish he was here tonight, because to me, we are trying to educate, but they don't want to be educated. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to go through this, and I know it's getting late, but I really want to hit some high points that I think you guys will, it's better than reality TV. It's better than watching TV, because I'm telling you right now, it's, when you see what's happening. So when you look at Senate Bill 727, so when you see this, this is all of the sections that are being repealed. You want to tell them kind of what that is, because I want you guys to understand all these numbers.
When you see, when they go into a bill and they repeal it like this means they're removing these sections. These are going away, and then they'll replace them with new sections. So those are all the sections of law that they're taking away.
Real quick, they're removing them from where? RSMO?
No, law. Current law.
Or the Constitution of
No,
Missouri?
current law.
Current law. Current law.
RSMO.
Yes.
So the thing I want you guys to see, okay, this bill was introduced in committee, and I really want you to understand this, because this happens every day. It was introduced in committee as a 12-page bill. Okay, so that means when you get in your car, you drive Jefferson City, and you go and you testify, all you can see before you get there is a 12-page bill. That's what you're testifying on. But when he brings it to the floor, he substitutes it. So that 12-page bill had a fiscal note right here of could exceed $9.1 million, okay? That's nothing in the education world. But what he did was he substituted it for a 154-page bill with a fiscal note of it could exceed up to $467 million next when it goes into effect. So from 9 million, and that's what the public could speak into, because Curtis Trent is a senator who goes, well, I need to take a look and see which one, who opposed it. Well, nobody opposed it. Because it may have been a good bill.
That's insulting, and I want to speak into that, because that is so insulting. This is what they do to us all the time. They bring a bill forward that is nothing like what they substitute directly on the floor. And so with this bill in particular, he said to someone else in there that's really, I think, anyway, she's really hot about it, because they had mentioned in there about DESE having control. And he said DESE doesn't have any part in this bill. Nothing. And so everyone that came and testified, DESE has no part in this bill. And then he substituted it, after saying that, in that committee hearing with the public, with how many times?
Over 125 mentions of DESE in his sub. So he lies these little good lies and said, well, I mean, the 12-page bill, blah, blah, blah. But then he brings it to the floor. So let me tell you what he did. This is dirty politics, okay?
Is that short?
What?
Who was it that brought
This is Andrew Koenig, who's running for state treasurer. Andrew Koenig. Everybody needs to know. Yeah. So here's the deal. This is the dirty, dirty deed. He does a 12-page bill in committee. He comes and originally brings a 75-page bill to the floor. That was his first sub. No fiscal note attached, too quick. Sub didn't have it. So he expected them to perfect it that night. But you know who filibustered? The Democrats. So all day the next day, he met with the Democrats and negotiated with them. His 76 bill turned into a 153-page bill, and you had Republicans like Bill Eigel and Jill Carter, and they were all like, we haven't seen it. We have no time to read it tonight. We need to be able to read this bill and digest it and know what it says. We need legal opinions. Nope. As is or nothing. Except Bill Eigel, I went Lisa, because Lisa was there. I'm not there. So I want her to tell you with firsthand what Bill Eigel did for us.
I'm going to show you what Bill Eigel did. I was sitting in the gallery, and they got that sub, and he looked up at me and he goes, I marched on over to the side gallery, and he said, you read this as fast as you can, and you tell us what we can do. And I said, all right. So I was over there, speed reading as fast as I can. And he said, what can we do right now? We need to do something right now. Because remember, Andrew Koenig is on his team of the Freedom Caucus, and you can't go against your team. Even though Andrew did this to him. Even though Andrew did this to him, he let the Democrats speak into the bill, and he didn't let his own team read it.
He surprise attacked them on the floor.
And then from up high, going what you're saying, the Freedom Caucus from up high says, you go against your team members, you're off this team. That's what they're told. You go against your team members, doesn't matter that you didn't read the bill. You go against your team members, you're off this team. So I'm sitting at the side gallery, and I said, okay, one thing, we have to protect the people, we have to protect the taxpayers. They're going to try to flood us with illegals.
And I'm listening to it online, and I keep saying, send me the bill. Somebody said it wasn't online. Nobody in the public could read it.
So I'm
like, I want to see the bill.
Yeah, illegals. So I put in, I gave it to him to put in the illegal provision. Thank God he was able to do that quickly. But what I didn't know was what I didn't know. And what I didn't know is I hadn't read the court case that I read the week after. It says that we have to take the illegals except, and I read the court case and I'm like, oh Lord, my heart sank. Because if I would have known it a week earlier, I could have crafted it in that way, but I didn't know. And what it says is that equal protection, if we would have done it for equal protection and brought in basically saying requiring birth certificates and that kind of thing when they're registered, and then a vehicle to escort them out of the state, then I believe that it would have passed legal muster. But just having the illegals in there as I did, unfortunately.
It's just so frustrating because nobody, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much experience you have, you are not equipped within 30 minutes. That's what they want you to do, is just pass it out and trust us. Yes, ma'am.
So why are they allowed to trade a 9-page bill for a 156-page bill?
It's the rules again, right? We keep seeing how important the rules are. They should never be allowed. And at the very beginning of session, we fought, the conservatives fought for 48 hours to read a bill. And you know what? The rest of the Republicans said, no way. And Andrew Koenig, I'm just going to tell you what Andrew Koenig did there. Andrew Koenig, with the 48 hours, he substituted that. He put an amendment to the amendment on the floor and said, how about 24 hours? Like he was compromising, how about 24 hours? And they're like, fine, like really, we'll take 10, we'll take whatever we can get, because this is happening so quickly. He voted, Andrew Koenig then turned around and voted against his own amendment for 24 hours.
And it lost, because your rhinos and Democrats want to ram things through.
You can't make this stuff up.
I mean, this is why we're here. People need to start to hear this message on video. You guys need to know what's happening, because everyone knows something's wrong. But okay, I'm going to keep going. Charter schools, privately owned, no elected school boards, your taxes go to them. Boone County just saw a massive carve out for charter schools. You want to guess maybe why? He has a name. Caleb Rowden lives in Boone County. So anyway, no accountability to taxpayers, KIPP charters, they all act like we gotta get this woke stuff out of here. I mean, we can't have, when they say that, they are such hypocrites because your tax dollars are going to support charters. So when and what's his name? Nick Schroer, we have to have limited government. We have to stop funding these public woke schools. Well, let me show you a public woke school. It's the charters, KIPP. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Joy is resistance, creates space for LGBTQ youth mental health. Staff diversity, we're committed to creating an environment where staff who identify as Black, Indigenous, and people of color are best positioned to succeed, making them the priority.
Of charter schools
I want you to hear
popped up all over the U.S., all sharing some common
You guys gotta hear this.
Most of them are high-achieving academically. They stress math and science. And one more thing, they're founded and largely run by immigrants from Turkey who are carrying out the teachings of a Turkish Islamic cleric, Fethullah Gulen. He's the spiritual leader of a growing and increasingly influential force in the Muslim world known as the Gulen movement, with millions upon millions of disciples who compare him to Gandhi and Martin Luther King. Gulen promotes tolerance, interfaith dialogue, and above all, he promotes education. And yet he's a mystery man. He's never seen or heard in public. And the more power he gains, the more questions are raised about his motives and the schools.
If you guys can, again, look this up. It's a 60-minute interview that's about 10 years old. And just look up the Gulen Charter School Movement. It's 13 minutes. They bring in teachers from Turkey on visas. Most of them can't speak English. In Missouri, just so you know, because this is what your school choice bill is expanding, guys. Missouri, this is the Gulen footprint inside the United States. This is the number of schools in Missouri, 17, the Gateway Science Academy and Frontier, total enrollment 2,789, concept schools, Frontier schools, total revenues 33,800,000. Employees with visas, 83. Now I don't know honestly how that's older, this is a really great website that's interactive across the country. Fethullah Gulen owns the largest, or he's part of the largest charter school chain in the world. He says you don't have to build mosques, you just build the schools. Right? This is what school choice is doing. This is what they want to expand. 727, government school choice, promulgation of rules. 85%, we had a great state rep take the whole bill, break it down, and she goes, oh my gosh. This is 85% Democrat priorities. This is a radical leftist bill now.
I was going to say earlier, when it went from 12 pages to 75 pages, to over 150 pages, you don't do that overnight.
Right.
Okay? You said that video was from 10 years ago.
Yes.
Everything that you saw 10, 15, 20 years ago is coming true fruition today.
That's right. And
you have to see everything that happened in the past to know that it's coming to your doorstep today.
Just so you know, I've been doing this for 12 years, and what I hate, I've been right about every single thing that I said was going to happen with Common Core, plus some. And I hate that I have been. This is Dean Plocker, and I want you to see this really quick, because now I'm going to get into showing you the tweets and how vile your representatives and senators are when it comes to this bill. This is Dean Plocker. This was from earlier today, I think. SB 727 has some great safeguards that allow homeschoolers to participate in most scholars. It does not require homeschoolers. I want you guys to get this. Last week, the Homeschool Legal Defense Alliance, the largest legal homeschool advocacy group in the country, flew into Missouri to address the FPE schools, which is the exact same language as homeschools. And they warned that FPE is dangerous. It's happened in West Virginia. And they tried the same thing. We're just going to do two definitions and then say FPE, but not a homeschool. But what West Virginia says is under the Equal Protection Clause, we have to treat homeschoolers exactly the same way, subject to the same laws as the FPE schools. So The other thing is Classical Conversations, which has the largest homeschool, one of the largest homeschool curriculum organizations that's for Christians. They actually have come out. They're not political, but they have come out after addressing they're legal, and warned Missourians and said, reject, oppose this bill, send emails, send letters. This is Classical Conversations. These are two of the country's largest. This is Dean Blocker talking. Remember the ethics investigation guy? Remember? Yeah, this is him talking. So I'm sure he's telling the truth. But what I want you to see is who he tagged. Missouri Jean Evans. She's a lobbyist. I'll show you in a second. Representative Josh Hurlburt. He works for Herzog. And he actually, is what I read, he actually helps people set up their education saving account scholarships for Herzog schools. He's a state rep. It really should be a conflict of interest. Andrew Koenig, Doug Ritchie, we'll talk about him in 1 second. Kate Cassis, she is a major lobbyist. I'm going to show you some stuff about her. Greg Keller, lobbyist. Camellia, a lobbyist. There's Bishop Davidson. What did he do to us?
447.
447. So he got advanced. He has a chairmanship and a nice parking spot now, you guys, because he was a good little soldier. He totally sold out Missouri on 447, so he's elevated right up the ranks. So he's carrying the companion to 727 in the House. What I want you to see, Jean Evans, the lobbyist, American Federation for Children, they contributed. Right Path PAC is right here. I don't want to get too far in, but this is where we understand what's happening. So what happened, I'm going to go on to the next slide. Do you guys remember, or were you familiar when Mike Moon accidentally wore his overalls because he was making waffles in his office? He put on a jacket, and they went bananas, because God forbid, like, he looked nice. It wasn't like he came out as a hee-haw. It was like he came out and looked really nice, and you couldn't tell you. They went bananas. But they treat him so badly. So badly. And so this was after, and I want you to explain this bill, because you remember better exactly the details, but explain what this bill was and why Right Path PAC was formed. These are major WashU donors that overnight, literally, because of the conservatives in the Senate, they put this PAC together overnight and had $2 million in it, literally in like 3 days. And tell why they did it, Lisa.
So the WashU PAC, what's happening is we were wanting to tax the endowment of WashU if they were training up abortion doctors. And so when we did that, they came out in full force to attack and say, anyone that would do this, that we're going to spend a ton of money against you because you're doing this. So that was why it was created. It's basically, they want abortion to advance in the state.
And so this is the lobbyist. His name is Jorgen Schleiermacher. And he said the pattern of paralysis, because they were filibustering, they were adding an amendment to say, if you're going to perform abortions or train doctors in your school to perform abortions, we're going to tax your endowment. Well, and that will come up in a hurry, because I'm going to say this. Any anti-abortion hearing we've ever been in, the white coats that show up in mass that are performing abortions at Planned Parenthood are the ones from Barnes Jewish. Wow. Oh yeah, and they're not ashamed of it. So everybody knows it. But he said it's kind of the #1 question on all our minds. What's going on with the Senate, Schleiermacher said. We all kind of scratch our head and say, if I knew what the solution was, I'd be rich. And I'd be on a beach someplace, but nobody knows what the magic formula is. While the PAC is not affiliated with the university, most of its contributors are either former members of its board of trustees, and nearly all are major university donors. The dysfunction in some of the policies that were brought up and debated just led to the ignition of everybody in wave of frustrations. He said, we need to do something about this. It is not a direction that is good. We can't let it progress any further. This is conservatives being conservative.
They're not conservative.
Well, no, he's fighting the conservatives. So he's like, we have to do something about these conservatives. So you know what they did? They set up the Right Path PAC. You know what we do and so many people in Missouri are doing now? They're watching every penny the Right Path PAC donates, because they're not sending it to your church. Bill Eigel probably hadn't gotten a penny. Mike Moon, I'm sure, hadn't gotten a penny. So what you just look at is we're tracking this money. Here's what's just been happening though. I want you to see some of the tweets that are so vile. This is from Tim Jones. It says, they were talking about the caucus. This just happened this morning. The people's speaker, what happened was a lady said,
That's Tim Jones.
I know, so
No.
the caucus, what happened is a lot of people like you and I are learning about school choice. And they want the definition of it, the government school choice definition, removed from the platform. And so it has happened, that dialogue. We want real school choice, but we don't want this kind of school choice. And they're enraged by it. So what happened was there were different caucuses that were removing it from, but this is what made him mad. The People's Speaker, Tim Jones, it didn't happen in CD2. I was a parliamentarian. And what it was these anti-choicers defending commie Marxist government schools at all costs, which is not true. He's talking about me and Lisa and others like us. You guys are a bunch of commie Marxists. Doug Ritchie, a pastor, said, once again, Charlene, who's the homeschool mother of 10. She moved to Missouri from Delaware as a refugee because she was in Biden's Delaware, because she thought we were all red here. And so he hates her. Pastor Doug Ritchie says this, Charlene is misinformed or lying. CD6 did not vote to remove school choice. We did not vote to reject ESAs or educational tax credits. We did not vote to reject public charters. And this is what somebody had asked him a question about that. He goes, and even if any of these suggestions were approved, that's all they are, recommendations. No one won or lost anything. And none of them will make it anywhere near the GOP. He's promising this. Well, he's not in charge of that. But he's also foreshadowing. But what then he went on to say, he just talks about shilling for the educational cartel. But I want to give you this one example, and I'll scoot through it. Chris Lonsdale, a freshman lawmaker, he had the audacity to vote against, Florida State was going to vote against school choice last year. He is a freshman lawmaker, and they crucified him. Tim Jones went after him, basically called him a liar. His name was Representative Chris Lonsdale.
And now they've whipped him into submission, just so you know, because they're really good at it. Because if you step out of line, they're gonna, you ask why would your senator? Because your senator is getting daily beaten down saying, I will pour money into your district, I will get someone to run against you, I will make sure whatever I need to do to remove you, I will remove you. And that's why your voice has to be louder than that voice.
So Tim Jones, we can go into the Missouri Ethics Report and see who's donated. There's Rex Singfeld. Missouri Club for Growth is Rex Singfeld. This is more of Tim Jones. This is 2012, but 25,000, 100,000. The former Speaker of the House, and even if this is from what just happened, and even if any of these suggestions, platform, because they're not remotely Republican, which whatever. And somebody said, so if you really have no idea what happened, even though you were parliamentary, and he goes, first of all, it's parliamentarian. Second, I don't know what happened in 3 or 6 because I was not there with you. I was at CD2 where I was chosen to be a Trump delegate, and no, your imaginary wet dream did not occur there.
Who said that?
That is Tim Jones, former Speaker of the House, the head of the Freedom Caucus.
So when Justin Sparks was here last month, I had asked him those questions about Tim Jones and the money that he got from Rex Springfield after he became Speaker of the House in September of 2012.
Yes.
And he said, well, I'm not too sure about any of that. You'd have to talk to him about that. So I have my questions about Justin Sparks.
Yeah. Rex Singfeld, most of you know, here's another lobbyist.
Wait, I feel like I have to say something because I know these guys inside and out, and I just feel like I have to step in. Representative Sparks wants to represent you rightly. I mean, he truly does, and not everybody truly does. I'm being real with you. Not everybody truly does. I would say a majority of them truly don't care. and so he truly does. I think he gets lost in some of this. So again, just try to be the voice that outweighs that voice, because he doesn't know about, like all these things, it becomes whose voice is loudest and who's getting in his ear.
Yeah, let me show you some more of the money. Greg Keller, this guy is a consultant We are having a Reagan Days in my county in 2 weeks, and anyone that he is working with that we know of has been banned because he is doxing private citizens. He is so vile on the internet. So anybody he works for as a consultant will be banned from my county.
And he's a lobbyist?
He is. He's a consultant and a lobbyist. I'm out of DC. He actually worked for Mitt Romney's campaign and John McCain's campaign. But let me show you what he does. Rex Seinfeld, the Show Me Institute. Oh, there he is. Rex Seinfeld, tied to Rex. This is when they went after Chris Lonsdale. Somebody please get the below to Chris Lonsdale. He blocked me. Remind him, yeah, it's not yet 1 p.m. I still have some lines in the water. Good morning, this is Ryan Johnson. This is a commissioner, what county is he, Cass? Commissioner, I think, of Cass County. I'll show you in a second. But he was working for Americans for Prosperity. He went after, good morning, he says. Takeaways from Chris Lonsdale, other barely 20-somethings who are new to politics, always honor your word if you have. And he says, don't swing at every pitch and always be the bigger bear. And then Keller just keeps hammering him, because he dare change his vote. But this is what he says to Chris about Chris Lonsdale. Let's not talk about Chris anymore. He's irrelevant now. But you might proactively instruct Mo like greenhorns. It's best not to F with me. I can ruin careers all day long if need be, but would honestly prefer not to. I've got tanning sessions and other S to do.
And this is who they are. This is what they're dealing with on a regular basis in that building.
This is what Ryan Johnson said, Americans for Prosperity, wherein an overconfident young buck calls Greg a grifter and elitist. I tried to help you, son. Now, well, nothing I can do. And so it's just like they tag team and bully. This is a guy named Jeremy Cady. It takes 20 years to build a reputation, 5 minutes to ruin it. That's a threat to Representative Chris Lonsdale. He's with Americans for Prosperity. This is referring to me because of something I wrote. Groomer adjacent Randy Weingarten, and I don't even know what he's saying. Libs are attacking Doug Ritchie for being an education freedom champion, and they really don't like the fact he's a pastor. In case you were wondering who the left doesn't want to see in the Senate, I am not the left. But they're redefining what conservative looks like and Republican looks like.
And so let me speak about Doug Ritchie for a second, because I have my own beef, and so I'm going to tell you about the beef. With the COVID liability bill, that, again, everybody was dying in the hospital, I came to Pastor Doug Ritchie as a Christian that got involved. And I said, the people are dying. They're calling me.
It's hard because people have died because of these guys and the loyalties they make, not for you guys or us.
I said, you can't do this to the people. Will you please just reconsider, think about this? And he said, I will. And I was in there with Jody Wilhelm, actually, in there. I said, please, pray about it. And he said, I will. I'm going to reconsider. I'll do that. And we left, and we had to go meet with somebody, and that person wasn't there. So we turned right back around in the hall, and he was meeting with a lobbyist out in the hall, and his back was to me. So he didn't see us coming up. And the lobbyist with this board there says, are you with us on that bill? And he goes, oh, no, man, sorry, I'm not. And we're like, oh, good. Okay, maybe we got to him. And then he goes, just kidding, man. Of course I'm with you. So that was just a lie.
And as
it was just a lie. And then he saw me, and then he was convicted. I just walked my way, and he came and found me later on that day. He said, I want to talk about what you saw. I said, I think it's very clear what I saw. Yes. I think it's very clear. I don't need you to explain what I saw. And then from there, it went on to, I'm going to ban SEL, and then he had an outcome-based education bill, where he did the opposite.
Yeah.
And then the health bill. Okay, and now it's this, where he's piling on us with school choice. Piling on us.
And he's really evil, actually.
But what I want to say is, he now went and said, I was wrong about SB 51, which is the bill that I saw him in the hall. But it's weird, because he doesn't seem to tell anybody that Just the people that he needs to get money from. Yeah, just the people he needs to get money from. Because I've never heard him come and apologize. I know he hasn't apologized to me. He hasn't apologized to any of you in the room that have maybe lost loved ones because of the bill that he passed. I've heard no apology from this pastor. And yet he's piling on social media yet again after.
So I just want to say this. What kind of pastor would hire Greg Keller to run your pack? Right? So anyway, he just keeps piling on. You can see here Greg Keller. He is the treasurer of Doug Ritchie's PAC, or his campaign. This is an actual document. Kate Cassis, she's Rex Singfeld's girl. When we were lobbying grassroots to kill Common Core, old Kate, she also sits on the Missouri Charters Board. And she was the one that we fought tooth and nail. She brought us, she tried to bring us Common Core. We fought tooth and nail to fight her. But she's who's written SB 727, the school choice bill. She's the one. And you see, she also has something called the Nexus PAC. So the PAC that she can put money into, or her company, she's already just given a small $2,000 donation to Doug Ritchie, but it's a pretty good guess. If this gets through, it'll be better. David Jackson, Jorgen Schlemeyer, Right Path PAC. He works for his company. He and Kate Cassis are Rex Singfeld. That's who Rex Singfeld has hired. He brought us 447. It was his language. He was in 5 different bills. And David Jackson, he's also the head lobbyist, one of the 2 for Rex Singfeld.
Can you go back? Why does that say Missouri Ethics Commission up there?
It's because as a registered lobbyist, then that goes to Missouri Ethics Commission.
Americans for Prosperity, I'm going to zoom through this. Ryan Johnson, he's Cass County Commissioner. Jeremy Cady, Americans for Prosperity. Americans for Prosperity are the Koch brothers. They're supposed to be conservative. They were when their dad was alive. They're with an organization called the Stand Together Trust. They fund it. In March of 2023, Stand Together Trust sponsored the Southwood Festival, Stand Together Fellowship, Koch Associate Program. They sponsor drag story hours, and the drag story hour Fight for Her stories. This is the Americans for Prosperity, funded by the Koch brothers. They also fund this.
Could you repeat that? AFP?
Americans for Prosperity is the Koch family. That's who funds them. But when you go looking into the other organizations that are funded by the Kochs, this is a Koch Associate Program with Stand Together Fellowship. So if you guys do some research into Stand Together, you're going to find the Koch connections. And this is what they're funding on the other side. So when we have these lobbyists calling us leftist, Marxist, they have an agenda. They have an agenda. This is Breaking Down Barriers. This is Stand Together Again. They partnered with LeBron James Family Foundation to eliminate barriers to dividing old students back. LeBron James Promise Schools in Akron, Ohio is facing major backlash from the school board after it was reported that the school hasn't had one student from its 8th grade class pass the state math test. This is your charter school. This is school choice, guys. Charles Koch 4.0, the 4.0, Charles the Kochs. Charles Koch Foundation, the Walton Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates give to this, Blackstone, Morgan Stanley. But what's interesting about this, they fund Woke Kindergarten. All power to the little people. Woke Kindergarten is a global abolitionist early childhood ecosystem, visionary creative portal, supporting families, children's educators, organizations, and their commitment to the abolitionist early education, pro-black and queer trans liberation. Their pedagogy, remember that word. We'll go to in a second. Just a second. Our pedagogy, here are their books for little kids. Woke Kindergarten. Stick with me. Oh. This is Andrew Koenig. The night he betrayed all of his conservative Republicans, this is what all the paper looked like when you bring a 153-page substitute to the floor that nobody's seen. He looks proud of himself. But this is what it looked like in the basement as they were printing it off. Like that just made my stomach sick. So I thought I'd throw that in there.
Wait, go back.
Yeah.
Republicans have voted no. Moon, Pannett, and
Moon Gannon of all things, Justin Brown.
Justin Brown. Not.
That was like, whoa, we were like, Ponzi scheme, we talked about this already. Oh, this is interesting. Let me go over this really quick. This is super interesting. So what has just happened with Vivek, your treasurer? He just got majorly busted because he was using money to put stickers on all the illegal slot machines, right? So that's been a whole big thing. But remember, there's nothing in the bill. They get a percentage of the ESA funds. So everybody's wondering, Missouri Treasurer faces scrutiny over state advertising on unregulated slot machines. He was putting his sticker on all these machines, advertising themselves. So did that money come from the ESA? Nobody knows because it's not written into the bill that there are guardrails. That's what we're talking about.
Stacy, though, you didn't tell them. The EAOs, by the way, when that money goes in for the EAOs actually they can get up to 10%. So that doesn't go to anybody but the EAOs. So when you're talking about this, it's such a different system from the public system where nobody's making money.
Yeah.
These people aren't just making money for charters. They get to scoop up 10% off the top.
That's just like your treasurer also. I'm going to zoom through the parts of the bill because I want to show you the homeschool piece that we just found. If your kid, ELL learners, English language learners, they usually are illegals, they get 160% of the funds that would normally go. That means they get more than any ordinary English-speaking American in their ESA account. DESE is mentioned over 125 times, the promulgation of rules delegated to DESE over 19 times. DESE is going to decide. This is what the bill looks like on page 5, as approved by DESE, as approved by DESE, as approved by DESE, and it goes on and on. This one talks about being enrolled in a homeschool. This has been a heartburn thing for a lot of homeschoolers because you don't have to enroll. Who would you enroll with? And what regulations? So this has been a real sticking point. Yes.
Interjecting here, if anybody were to ask him, they're going to say that one portion was already in existing law like this and they moved it to another portion, and that's absolutely correct. But what they are not going to tell you is this is in addition to. They tweaked a few words in the second portion, not the first portion, but the second portion. They tweaked a few words and it makes a big difference.
And I'll show you that in a second. We're going to try to get through the rest of it. This one is the literacy fund. This is just a fund that says they're going to give $5 million. They're going to send books to homes of little kids, maybe woke kindergartners. And then there's going to be massive data collection. It collects, disaggregates, distributes detailed data on all metrics of the program. It's massive data collection. Do you want to tell about your heartburn?
Okay, so it's called that pedigree. You know what she just showed you with woke kindergarten?
The program builds on pedagogical and literacy principles to improve reading comprehension. Look, remember what we just saw about woke kindergarten? It's their pedagogy.
And this was Carla May, the Democrat in the Senate. This was her standalone bill, by the way, that they put in there. And what they're doing is putting at least 6 books that are shipped directly to the home, picked by the child, but then at least weekly phone calls, texts, and data collection with the parents about this program in multiple languages.
It also says that local down here, including matching funds from local educational agencies, those are your public schools, have to match funds on this. And if they don't, they lose accreditation points and they become provisionally unaccredited because of the school accreditation. We're almost done, guys. This is the big deal. I'm going to let Lisa pick this up because this is the big glaring thing that we just figured out. And this is what everybody who has a homeschooler or cares about homeschooling, if you take nothing else away today, this is after having a little bit of time to get legal, a little bit of time to have people look at it. You got to listen to this because this is the nail in the coffin, we hope. But Lisa, pick this one up.
Okay, so here it says, for purpose of state law, a homeschool is a school, and then it goes on, and it defines what a homeschool is. Now, somebody came to us and they're like, I think this could have problems and implications for gun laws. And I thought, well, that seems like a stretch. I don't know about that one. It seems a little too far-fetched. But we said, okay, well, we'll run it by, some lawyers and whatever. So one of them actually did through Senate research, their lawyers, and they agreed and they said, yes, this would have implications with the gun laws. And not only that, but they went on to say, I wouldn't really worry about it though, because we have Republicans in. So as long as we have Republicans in, it's fine. Now, of course, we know you don't create laws because we have Republicans in, because eventually, even if the Republican is good, and this very much reminds me of the Treasurer's Office, we had a Republican in there too, and they were doing background checks on adults. So this has this is like
a federal law. It's a felony to have a gun in a school, on school grounds. It's a felony. So what they are saying is, for the purpose of all the laws in Missouri, not just one little section, homeschools will now be considered schools with all the same laws that apply. And it doesn't say just the homeschools that take the ESA money. So you see, this goes back to the United Nations of capture and regulate and inventory. Monitor, inventory, and control. This is the legislative draft. This is what they got. Boone County. I want you to see this, guys. There are more people here tonight. This hearing was full of people. Lisa was in it. There are 1, 2, 3 people that are legislative aides. But when you go to Jefferson City and you want to testify about something that you're passionate about, it makes me so mad. That you're passionate about, that means something to you, and you take time out of your day. And there's precious people. They are precious. And they go and think they can make a difference, and nobody shows up. Not one. There was like 3 state reps, right, in the room, because she was there.
Yeah, so there were like 3 that maybe just sat in there. And what you can't see here too is there were a ton of Mennonites that came in to speak against this bill.
So is this the
727, the school choice. So there were a ton of Mennonites.
But this is how they're going to push it through. I was told by more than one state rep, they are whipping this bill so hard, threatening. It is not to be changed. You cannot touch it. So they're told they're going to push this to the House floor. Nobody can add an amendment. Nobody can have any say into this. Nobody can stand up and change anything. It's going through as is or nothing, and if not, we're coming at you. AFP has been threatening it. Kate Cassis, they've been going into offices, and what I've heard from several reps, that I've never seen anything like this. There is massive money. I want to show you this, 101. This is the actual true value of your property. How are they going to do that? And who wants it? The education lobby. Why? How much of your money on your real estate taxes goes to your local school?
Over half.
That's exactly right. 85% where I'm at, yeah. So what's been happening, the question I have, actual true value. I know from my assessor friends, that's going to come from AI. That's what they're doing in Jackson County, Missouri. They are going to standardize, and that is what they want to bring in. They want to take away local control from your elected assessor, bring in a computer system. It's called Tyler Technologies. Look it up. Tyler Technologies is what's happening. The Attorney General actually, and they're going to say, well, we have to save Jackson County. It is not accurate. They're not saving Jackson County, I think, is one of the only counties in Missouri that does not have an elected assessor. They have 55,000 appeals because people's real estate taxes have gone through the roof, as much as quadrupled. If you don't think the school choice lackeys that are browbeating us, calling us names, if you don't think this is next, this is all tied together, because all of your millionaires and billionaires that are really pushing it, look, I'm all for people making a good living. But when they're pushing this so hard and there's so much money to be made, they're also the ones pushing this.
And what bill is this? Is this a different
that bill is, read it, that bill is 1001.
And where's it at right now? Where it's in?
There's a lot of bills. I think if I'm just going from memory, maybe it
I
made it.
had a hearing, but again, I called my assessor and I said, hey, what's up? Read this bill. And he just said, no, we go to all these conferences because they have to go to continuing ed every 2 years. And he said, they're driving this. They want to bring artificial intelligence. Did you guys hear about the police officer and the county worker in Kansas City that got shot during an eviction?
Yes, I did.
So that was what was really sad, is that person's taxes had gotten so high. My understanding is he had paid his taxes, but he couldn't afford the penalties and interest. And they'd sold his house, and they came to remove him, even though he paid his taxes, but he couldn't pay the penalties and interest because of this.
So Stacy, that leads to SB 750 with Lincoln Huff. You guys should be concerned about this. This is a monster bill, 750.
Here it is. I want to show you guys. We're gonna end. We have just like some of the big bills that we're looking at, and then we'll close this thing up because we just have. But at least to talk about it, I want you guys to hear. There's about 4 bills you need to hear.
So 750 is about delinquent taxes, and it's a monster of a bill. I mean, I'm just telling you, a monster of legalese about this thing. And it's talking about if you don't pay your taxes or their delinquent taxes, all these ways that they're able to take your land and they put it in land banks.
So look at this. This is all of this law that's being repealed. Look at it. Over 70 sections of law they are repealing to bring this in.
And what we find time and time again is they're removing common law. When they do that, your rights are grounded in common law. Okay?
Yeah.
So when they're taking this out and they're putting this monster thing, this is even talking about adjacent lands and the government being able to buy adjacent lands when they take another property.
Tell them. I asked Lisa on this one, who were the lobbyists, what their suits look like.
Well, that's when I said there were some nice suits.
But that tells you what you're looking at. They fly in. Land banks, I think, are all positioned because they're going to try to pass true value assessments. People are going to lose their homes because they're not going to be able to pay their taxes. And so they act like they're doing it to rescue you. Let's go, there's just a couple of them. That's a big one we're watching. Lisa, do this one.
Okay, so 782 is Senator Bean. There should be major opposition with this one. So what's happening is in the guise of not exporting water, because this is what they do, okay? It says you're not going to be able to export water from Missouri except, that's your key phrase, okay? Unless such person holds a water exportation permit issued by the department. So what happens right now is we have the utopia, just so you know, with water rights here in Missouri. Our water bills are, relatively low, they're not crazy, and there's no real monitoring of our water that exists, and we have perfect water rights. What I mean by that is in common law, there's something called riparian water rights. And that means that we have a few people that are currently exporting water outside of the state. However, their rights end where yours begin. Okay, so as soon as they start to infringe upon your water rights, if I'm exporting water, then you have standing in court to go after me. What they're trying to do is remove that, okay? They want it all in the Department of Natural Resources with a permit to be able, that would take that away, that would remove those water rights, and then it would be under the Department of Natural Resources for the most beneficial use that they deem within the state.
And if you look at this, what?
Is this what they did to Oregon and shut down all the small farms?
All different,
over water rights?
all different things with, and we've been in touch with, I have been in touch with different states, and one in particular with Michigan, and they said this is exactly what they did in Michigan, and so Nestle just pays a $250 export license to their DNR, and then they're able to just ship out.
So the thing that we've also watched is there's a lot of emphasis here that nobody will talk about. It's called the Trans-America Corridor. And when you do look it up, everyone, and you need to, but when you look at it, this is what it says. The Trans-America Corridor incorporates 5 major elements: high-speed freight, intelligent highway design, electrical transmission conduit, natural gas line, and a water pipeline to serve arid areas of the Southwest. I told Lisa today I understand how, because I've been reading a lot, China's stealing our water. It's like, they can't steal our water to China. But what they're doing is they're coming into these arid areas of the United States where they can buy thousands of acres. They're buying it, and then they're having water transported in to be able to grow alfalfa is the big deal. And they're wrapping it and sending it out on ships. So they really are stealing our water. They're buying these farmlands for pennies on the dollar. They're shipping water. So what happens, if you control the water, you control the people. This is a really, really big deal. I remember the bill 1351 where they were trying to hide who gets the permit. That'll be tagged on to this one. But Lisa, you need to talk about that, because you guys, if you walk away with one thing to do tonight, you better get on the phone with Ben Brown.
You need to be on the phone with Ben Brown about 1351, about sunshining the water, and you need to ensure that he continues to say a no vote, and I would thank him for his no vote, and I would just ask that he would continue and not be swayed by anything, that he stands strong on a no vote.
So can you go back over that? 1351 then voted the right way to
Yes.
say that we could still do sunshine. Now all of a sudden
There's all this pressure.
They're trying to resurrect it again. It has to be resurrected by somebody who voted no. Jill Carter voted no. Ben Brown voted no. Ben is getting serious pressure. They're coming to him and saying, Ben, will you please resurrect this bill? If Ben does that, then it's probably going to pass and we won't be able to sunshine stuff. So now we won't be able to sunshine anything to see who's exporting our water on this 782.
They don't want you to see.
Right.
It could be other foreign governments.
Right.
It could be that these lobbyists are getting rich, or even these senators are getting rich
I would
by
say
having
this,
a permit.
there is a Roy Blunt reservoir. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
So we thank Ben for the ranked choice voting. Was that 7? What was the number on that?
I don't remember the ranked choice.
So
yeah.
ranked choice voting, that just got passed. So thank Ben on that. Thank him for voting the right way on 1351, and ask him to please continue to vote no and don't do anything that would resurrect that bill.
And to vote no on school choice.
And to vote no on school choice, but
We have to push it.
yeah, we just have to ask him to. And he was going to be here. I invited him to come tonight, of course. He had family coming in. We talked for a long time on the phone on Friday. John Simmons was here but had to leave. I invited Kyle Marquardt to come because he's in the House and he will vote on this. And he was out of town this weekend too, so. Yeah.
You guys, we thank you so much. We have one more to close with, because this is about our state parks. We'll close with this one. Thank you. So we could literally do a 3-day course. Like, we've only scratched the surface of what we've seen. And you guys have been so gracious and patient. It's a lot of information, and we're so sorry. And I hope you take something away from it. But I'm going to give one more. She's going to go over one more bill. It's 1019, and then we'll close.
Okay, so 1019 is about closing our records of public governmental entities with, it's Justin Brown's bill. And it's talking about the meetings and the votes that are related to individual identifiable customer information for visitors who make camping, lodging, or sheltering reservations at Missouri State Parks or state historic sites. This is really weird, and there's a companion bill with Faulkner that's also moving, and he goes into more detail. And he says no personally identifiable information for a minor under 17 at the park. And what we found is there's a whole bunch of parks that are closing these days across the country.
State parks.
And at the same time, not saying this is going to happen, you just don't
We're just
know.
watching the number of illegals that are pouring over the border. And so we're trying to have an awareness with everything that we're watching. Now, are we saying this is true? But it's like, this makes no sense. Like, if my kid wants to go camp, you know, I mean, it's just weird.
This has never
It's a
been a
weird
problem before, and suddenly now we see this
urgency.
It is an urgency of
Closing
closing records,
and not being able to put our eyes on it. Again, a public entity, we should be able to see what is going on in a public entity. And if they set up an illegal camp there, we want to be able to see all the kids that maybe they're sending, they're giving iPads to do virtual school.
Well, I mean, we just don't know.
And then we would be closed off, which would be very different if I go to, Sam A. Baker State Park and all of a sudden I'm walking through and the park's not closed and I go, whoa, what's going on here? There's like an illegal camp going on here. But if they close that and nobody can get in to see and we can't sunshine to see what's going on, this is not good.
It's just
sunshine
concerning.
is our friend. That's
the way our republic was set up, with transparency, but your Republicans are doing this to you. The way you find us every week, once a week, sometimes we have something to add, and that usually involves a very late night of trying to figure out how to podcast, but shieldmaidensofmo.com will take you to our Substack, and it'll take you to the podcast. We are not widely distributed in a podcast form because we don't know how to do that yet.
Wait a minute, though. I know we told you to close, but I feel like I'm going to feel amiss if I don't say this. Okay, so Senator Rick Bratton, he had a bill about the landfill, okay? And his people, he has been fighting for his people so they don't get a dump on top of them in the Kansas City area now for 2 years. For 2 years, he's fought for his people. That's his number one priority, the people. And I'm going to just say this. I saw the most disgusting thing happen. That the lobbyists came en masse for that landfill, and they said, basically, who's going to be the takers of the money to ensure that we get to put that land dump on top of them. Mary Elizabeth Coleman stood and read Laura Ingalls Wilder to filibuster for hours.
From Arnold.
So that those people would get a land dump on top of them. That's who Mary Elizabeth Coleman is. Holly Rader stood and filibustered. Curtis Trent stood and filibustered. So think about if that was you, and you were getting a land dump on top of you. And all Rick Bratton is trying to do is make sure that that doesn't happen. And these senators stood, Mary Elizabeth Coleman stood in her little dress and read Laura Ingalls Wilder, so those people would end up with a dump on top of them.
So sometimes we're a little jaded, but I will say this, that what we are seeing with what just happened in the caucuses, Missouri is waking up. Now we don't know what to do sometimes because the other side's had the power for so long that when you get all these people that are super excited about being involved, we are seeing really positive things. Like, it's about killing bad bills. There ain't no getting good bills through, guys. It's not going to happen. But it's about killing the bad bills. So that's why we're here tonight. First of all,
80 to 85%. I read every single bill that passed last year. Every single bill that passed last year, 80 to 85% were Democrat bills. They were Republicans, maybe, that had them and passed them and sponsored them. But they were 80 to 85%. There's a reason why they only tell you about 2 bills at your picnics.
Yeah.
There's a reason why.
And we had to fight for tooth and nail. When you only get the SAFE Act for 4 years, and then after 4 years, those kids are going to be mutilated again because of your leadership, they had to give us something. And then they'll campaign on that for a solid 4 years. But I will say this, every single phone call and email makes a difference. I cannot stress that enough. If Ben Brown gets 10 calls, it makes a difference. If you ask him intelligent questions when he comes to your picnic or your town forum, it makes a difference. So don't give up, don't be discouraged. It took 5% of the population during the Revolutionary War to win. And I'm going to try to remember this and I'll close with it, but it's a quote that Sophie always said, is setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men is what changed and turned the whole Revolutionary War, the war around. Set brush fires, we can win, and we believe it. We wouldn't be here. We are just citizens, just like you, that we feel that God's called us to this. But unless we find a way to keep these guys accountable, they're going to come home, they're going to lie, they're going to tell you 2 or 3 good things, because this is a lot to break down, a lot. And I know you guys are like, oh my gosh. But just keep them in your prayers. And God, I'm just saying, miracles can happen. We've seen it, and we always look at each other like, oh, because God showed up today. So just know, we have kept you way long, and we are so honored. But find us at Shield Maidens of Mo. Like I said, we don't get paid for it, but we have to have an outlet. Is there anything else we need to do to, yeah?
Who is footing your bill for all your freedom requests? Because it's 10 cents a copy and the time that it takes to research the evidence.
So here's the thing. If you have a senator or an elected representative that will request to a bureaucratic agency, it is for free. And so they have to turn it over. And we've been really blessed with a few senators or state reps that will help us. They're not necessarily our own, but they will help us.
So you have to be recorded and recorded with the Secretary of State as an entity.
No, I know. If we go to a senator and say, I want you to file this sunshine request, will you? They don't have to put our name on it. The senator can request any information. So that is how we've gotten away with getting some of the things we've gotten. Otherwise, to your point, I think you're making, it would be virtually impossible.
Because the cost keeps
Yes, sir.
doing
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And nobody freely offers that when
No.
they're campaigning.
I would go to Ben Brown if there's information you want.
Mr. Ben Brown and I are at odds because of the 727.
Yes.
We will answer a couple more questions, but really quick, I'm going to pass a donation jar around. Whatever we collect tonight is going to be split for We the Free People and Shield Maidens of Missouri, okay? So that's going to start passing around. I'll give you back the mic, and we'll answer a couple other questions.
Yes.
So this is just a comment about educating my experience. So based on advice,
Yes, I'm listening.
based on advice from Lisa Pannett, I took a vacation day. I spent 13 hours helping Andrew King get reelected 4 years ago. And I feel he burned me that night about my question. And last year I feel he burned us about IP reform.
Amen.
He's a moral enemy of mine, more than.
Yeah, he's running to be our treasurer.
Yeah, and I want to say, so when Andrew first ran for state senate, I'm the one that gave his party to come out. So I'm going to tell you how hard it is to go against these guys because I gave his party. And so to come and say now all the things that we're having to say, we have to be honest. That's all you can do is be honest. So, I mean, I feel horrible about that. And I also feel horrible because guess what? I know Andrew's a nice guy. And you know what? Brooke, his wife is lovely, lovely person. I love them. But he should not be elected. That pains me to say that. But he shouldn't be elected.
Yes.
Real quick. So, I don't have a question, it's a statement. Many of you know, I'm going to start with this. You need to understand, every year, Vince Lombardi used to grab a football and he used to show it to his football team. Okay? And he used to tell the men that were getting assembled in his team, this is a football. Okay? Now the reason why I'm saying that to you is because maybe you don't understand this. Okay? We need to go back to understanding what the football is when it comes to the game of politics.
Yeah.
It's not about the majority, the Republican platform. It's not about Andrew Koenig's pet project, Shore's pet project, Ben Brown's pet project. It's about the Constitution of Missouri. It's about the Constitution of the United States. It's about your Bill of Rights. And they're coming after all of it. Okay? So, you need to stand. You need to stand. We need to show up at Jefferson City when you can. You need to call out Ben Brown when he's doing good, and you need to call him out when he's doing bad. It goes the same thing for McGurl, the same thing for Marquardt, and the same thing for Brad Vanderbilt. Okay? And I'm going to say this to you. You need to understand this. Okay? You need to ask your elected representatives this question. What is the primary role of government? Period. And if he doesn't answer that question properly, then he needs to not be voted for. What is the answer to that question?
As prescribed in the Declaration of Independence.
What is the answer to that question? Anybody? To protect your liberties and your rights. And your property. Okay? So I'm going to tell you again, you ask them that question in private, and find out what their answer is. And if they don't answer that properly, don't vote for them. We've got to stop because they're a nice guy. I'm tired of the nice guy bullshit. Okay? We need to go after these people. We need to hold them accountable. Their feet to the fire. That's all I got. Thanks, guys, for coming out.
And the state reps, they need to hear right now, too, we forgot to say this, your state reps right now, they need to get phone calls from you about 727, that you're against it, because this is going to be in front of them next week. So your state reps, whoever they are, need to know that you're against 727.
And the bullying is at massive, I can't even explain to you guys. You think that little kid bullying is bad? Until you get in Jefferson City and you understand what it means to be whipped, the emotional pressure on social media, you saw, that's a little teeny tiny sampling of what I showed you, how vile they are, how vile. So you need, I'll tell you this, our state rep, we just went after and tag teamed her, and we'll see how she votes. She was a yes. And then we all wrote emails, there were a bunch of homeschool dads that showed up in our office, and she said, I can't vote against my constituents, because you know why? She has an opponent primary in her too. But it made a difference. So please, I just can't stress it enough. Like my daughter, she actually helped get Jill Carter elected. And she was the chief of staff last year, and she goes, look, you get 3 calls, you're like, yeah, I don't know. You get 5 calls, you're kind of taking a little bit of note. You get 10, okay, you're engaged. You get 20, you're done. We can't vote for this. And that's coming from someone who was a chief of staff. So I would just say, it makes a difference, and it seems so small. To make a call seems so small. It's a big deal. So even if you have people in your churches, and you have like a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew, have them call, please. I can't stress it enough. You guys, thank you so much. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to end on a positive note.
Yes.
Besides calling and doing emails, give us something positive, or some people that are doing positive things, just real quick.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so Mike Moon has been amazing. If you looked at all the bills that Mike Moon has sponsored, he's doing a great job. So Mike Moon has been doing a great job, and anything that we can do to support him, because he should be like everyone's senator. And then I would say Senator Bill Eigel and Senator Hoskins and Senator Bratton, they've all been really, really working very hard and solid. And above all, I mean, I just have to say, Senator Eigel is he's just a leader by nature. And so he's been taking what we have, and I mean, he's been doing a really, really good job.
Let's go, Mo. And he's running for governor.
And he's running for governor, and he's been doing a really, really good job.
Jenny Hoskins is running for Secretary of State.
And on the House side, I would say Maisie Christensen now, she's been amazing, like a little firefighter.
And they're mad at her. But they put her in a box because she asked for the resignation of the Speaker of the House, and they won't even let any of her bills out. So she's had to work in stealth mode and really try, not stealth mode, but she studies every day. And she really is trying to lead, but the men, the leadership, they hate her because she's a strong, intelligent, she's young, and there's so much promise with her, so we're so encouraged.
And Holly Jones, she's been doing a great job. Great job. And also Bill Hardwick, he's been doing a really good job. So I think it's so important to give these ones that are standing against the grain and give them the kudos. And there are more, but I'm saying those are the standouts in my mind.
Mine too.
Well, thank you so much, ladies.